Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad.
Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am one of your hosts for the evening, Aggie, and with me is the awesome Rowdy Rick. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, Aggie, Rick's not here, but I have a question.
Well, what would that be?
I have a question. Do you want to build a snowman?
Oh, God, no.
Okay, well, if you don't want to help me build a snowman, will you help me hide a body?
Yeah, I can help with that. That I can do.
Okay, cool. Rick's back. I gotta go. Hey, how did Cartman get in here? Hey guys, how you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Do you want to build a snowman? No, but I want to stab something now. I know. I should not complain because you have it far worse than I do. And Lord knows that our resident alien has it even worse being in Vermont. So, but yeah, I don't like winter. I'm sorry, I don't like winter. It's cold and it hurts. It's icky. I mean, everybody's like, oh, but the snow is so beautiful and the icicles and all that stuff. Yeah, I can look at that from inside the house. So yeah, I can look at it on a picture. Your posts are beautiful. Thank you for sharing those. I appreciate that. But yeah, you can keep it.
But other than that, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Nope.
There's a reason my daughter took my granddaughter to go out and play in the snow. I was like, you know what? You can do that. My niece don't want nothing to do with it.
How much snow did you all get?
We got about 4 inches. We got less than they were saying we were going to get, but more than I expected to
get. Oh God, I'm sorry. That hurts to even acknowledge.
But yeah, so that's kind of why last minute I went with the title of "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" Because we're talking about winter. And then I figured out how to work Cartman in there at the end. Because weird. I get it. It's okay.
No, yeah, I get tonight's bitch fest brought to you by the solstice. I mean, yeah, I know we had the solstice a few weeks ago, but in Texas, winter doesn't really start until mid-January or so. That's when it decides to settle in. And even though it's normally shorter than what most northern states get, it's like winter on acid. It trips out. It does the weirdest stuff. It's unpredictable. Sometimes you even have to call the cops because of what winter does. So, I just don't. I don't care for Texas winter. If I had if my parents had moved to, and this was a possibility because the other job possibility for my dad was in New Jersey. Had they moved there or moved to Pennsylvania and then commuted to New Jersey to work, which was the possibility, I don't think I would have minded as much because it would have been predictable. I would have known what to expect. I never know what to expect when it comes to winter in Texas. Everybody was freaking out in Dallas with the snow. And I'm like, y'all understand it's going to warm up. All that liquid is going to, it's all going to melt. And then overnight, it's going to freeze. We're headed for an ice storm. And you people are like, wee, this is so much fun. No, it's not. It's not fun. This is what's happening. Sure enough, as I'm driving today, because I ran my last errands, because we're going to get into the low teens tonight. I was like trying to get rid of as much of the ice on the big branches, so it was like hitting it so that the ice would come off so that it wouldn't form more weight overnight. And I was already seeing all of, a lot of trees falling all over the place. We had one, not in our property, but in the property next to us, the one that we have to drive through in order to get to the main road. A huge pine right across the way. And I was like, yay, I get to play lumberjack today. And I did.
Did you have the red flannel shirt on?
My husband had the red flannel on.
You're not officially playing lumberjack unless you're rocking the red flannel shirt. I'm just saying.
I was just like, I don't know. But anyway, I know people like it, and there are some nice things about winter. And that's what I'm here for, to remind myself, because I can't think of them now.
There were a lot nicer things about winter when we were young enough that we didn't really have to deal with anything other than going and grabbing a sled and going down a hill. Now that I have to do all the responsible things regarding winter, I'm not a fan. I want to move somewhere warm, like constantly warm.
I have a friend that lives in near Chicago, and he can't wait for his wife to retire so that they can move to Arizona. And she says, I'll miss the snow. And, I tell her, you'll still get snow. It's even down to the border with Mexico, they get snow. She thought that it was completely snowless for some weird reason. And I told her, no, you'll still get snow. It's just that it's a lot drier and it's a lot easier on the joints, especially for her husband, who has arthritis and has a lot of issues with that. And that's why he hates the cold. And, our resident Alaska, Courtney, she's the same way. She has issues with fibromyalgia and she needs a warmer climate. And living in Alaska is just, she's done. She's completely done. So she's making arrangements to move permanently to Texas and everything. But even here, it still gets cold. It's not cold as long as it is in other places. But like I said, it's a schizophrenic cold. One day it'll be 78, and then it'll plunge to 12 that night. And I mean, it's just so drastic that a lot of people joke, hey, just, you don't like the weather, just wait 20 minutes. It'll change. But yeah, that was me today. I was playing lumberjack. And it was fun, sort of.
I don't know. So far, I'm not believing that it was fun part.
Okay, it was not. But, I started singing Henry VIII I Am, and that kind of helped.
Well, and then I had you singing a pirate shanty before the show. So.
Yes. I started singing the one from Pirates of the Caribbean from the ride. Like, I hate that. I hate the fact that I had to memorize all of these Disney songs when I worked there, because we all had to sing them at the drop of a hat. Because that was one of the things that, if you worked in the theme parks, if a little kid asked you to sing a particular song, you had to know it. you had to put the kid, the customer was always right. I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think it's a requirement anymore, but it used to be that if a child asked you to sing a particular song, you had better know it. And if you didn't know it, you could get out of it by saying, my friend sings it far better than I do. Let me get her for you. And you ran and you found anybody that knew the song and brought them back. But that child had to hear that song because the child asked for that song and you had to please the child. So yeah, when you said, when a bottle from, I started singing, yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Oh God, make it stop.
She has the Pavlovian response to Disney songs. However, Carmen starts singing "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" and she gets stabby. What the hell?
Because I don't like that character. I really don't.
What did Elsa's sister ever do to you?
Wait, who's the character? Who am I confusing?
I don't know because the sister is the one that.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. No, I was thinking it was Olaf. Olaf is the character I despise in that movie. I can't stand that character. I like the sisters just fine. I hate the song.
Hang on, think this through for a second. If Olaf started singing "Do You Want to Build a Snowman," that would need some different kind
of made no difference. Yes, right. Oh my goodness. You're right. That makes no sense. None whatsoever.
Well, not only does it make no sense, it would have gone from a Disney Pixar movie to a chicken wow and about.
Listen, I was cutting down trees and shaking ice off limbs today. Cut me some slack.
What fun is that?
I told my mom, I called it my mom because I wanted to send her. Well, I sent her I sent her a package and I was giving her a heads up. So I called my mom and I told her what happened with the tree. And she was silent. And I was like, Mom? And she says, never in my life would I have thought that my daughter would be cutting down trees. And the way she said it, like it was beneath me. No. And I was like, what do you mean? And it's like, you're so weak. I would never have thought you would do this. I'm like, wow. Okay. I see how it is.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
I know. I love my mom. She is something else. Oh my goodness. She was cracking me up. The reason I called, my sister sent me a message and she was visiting my mom. My mom's birthday is coming up in a few days. And so she wanted to visit her for the weekend and treat her to an early birthday dinner and all that stuff. And she sends me a message saying, Mom is still going on and on and on about what a wonderful time she had when you were here. And I didn't know how to respond to that. So I said, well, I hope you enjoy your stay there too. and she sends back, me too, with a like the smiley face, but it's not smiling, it just has a straight mouth. One of those.
Ooh. So when did you first discover that you were your mom's favorite child, and how was it today?
I was never my mother's favorite child.
Well, apparently
that distinction actually goes to my brother because he's the only boy. He was the youngest. So it's a trifecta right there. Youngest boy and malleable, I guess. So that's a trifecta. I was never her favorite because I was too much like my dad. And so I always had to curtail myself around her because it irritated her for me to be the same as my dad. So I was kind of more quiet. I always was the good child. I obeyed all of the laws in the house. I had a curfew of 10 p.m. till I was 22. I still observe it when I go visit my parents. I don't care if I'm 58, if my parents are going to bed at 9, I'm home before then, you know? So, and they think it's funny. They're like, just take the key. We don't care what time you come home. And I'm like, that's not right. I don't feel right doing that. It's their house. I respect their rules, right? Even though they suspended those rules once we left the house and became adults, I still observe them. It's really weird. And my mom always makes fun of me when I do that, but
And this is how and why you stealthily became your parents' favorite and you realized it today. You should have realized it when there was a fight over a duck in your family chat.
I know. A stupid duck. Danielle, I will say that it might be a possibility that my sister did get upset because mom actually told my sister that I was cutting down trees today. I was being Paulette Young Bunyan out there. And, my sister lives she lives near San Antonio. They have 3 trees on their property and they're small trees. She doesn't have to worry about any of them hitting the house or anything like that. Meanwhile, where I live, the pines are like 50, 60 feet tall. They're very close to the house. And I do worry about that on a day-to-day basis, So when, I did tell her, I did learn how to deal with the chainsaw. I also have one of those handheld mini chainsaws. Those things are so cool. I love those things. And she was just flabbergasted. I never would have thought that you would learn such a thing. And I'm like, oh, but it's okay for our youngest sister to know every single power tool on the planet. I'm just not allowed to learn any of them. I see. it's my family's odd. My family it's kind of like winter. I have to deal with it. I stay away from it as much as I can. I'm kidding. I love my family. I couldn't live without the drama. Oh, goodness.
As used to it as you are by now, if the family drama ever stopped, you'd be like, what happened? What's going on?
No, seriously, I was just like, I was waiting for her to send another message to tell me, you're going to have to come down and make a duck because I need to know why mom keeps raving about it. But thankfully, mom shut up about the duck and she just talked about me cutting down trees. And, for mom, that's a big deal because my mom is very anal about the status of her yard. If she even sees one leaf attempting to commit suicide from the tree, she's out there before it hits the ground. Okay, she's always tending to the yard. It's a daily thing for her. So when I told her that I was doing that, she was very, very surprised.
Mija, ¿por qué?
I know, yeah. And this is the woman that gave me my first machete. I'm like, why are you surprised? Because you're so weak. Like, thanks, mom. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
And I have no idea why my Spanish accent suddenly sounds like Fluffy Iglesias. That was weird.
Ow, that handheld chainsaw is so much fun. I swear, I'm seriously thinking about going. There's a small cedar tree that we need to take out, and it's small enough that you can take it out with a handheld chainsaw. I want to make slices from it and cure them, and then use them for painting, like I paint my rocks, but paint on the slices instead. I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I love that thing. I'm like, I need one for each hand.
Okay, I'm hiding the chat until MD's near self-incrimination goes away.
They're neat.
He's like, oh wait,
no. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so far winter is starting to settle in. and it has already, we had that big system move through, the one that dumped all the snow on y'all, and it's now moving and hitting the East Coast, which is, tragic because there's still people out there without homes or power or water or anything. And it makes my blood boil when I think about that. I gotta calm down.
Do we need to start talking about the duck again?
No. But anyway, like I was saying before I got distracted, yeah, winter. It's like I said, it's like it's on LSD, crack meth, something. Winter is not predictable in Texas. One can try. And if you're in a panhandle, it's okay. It's predictable. But outside of the panhandle, from El Paso all the way to Shreveport, Louisiana, none of that is predictable. And I remember when I was living in Irving, I went through more ice storms in my time in Irving, and I only lived there for 2 years, than I have the rest of my entire life put together. It's just the strangest. There's a vortex. I don't know what it is about that city. There's a vortex, and it just, oh, here, have an ice storm. It's strange. But yeah, I'm trying to organize things outside to where the winter will not wreak havoc with them. Because one of the things that, as you know, being in a tornado prone area, when, tornadoes don't just stop for winter. So have to do that too. We had a high wind advisory just a couple of days ago before the storm arrived. Did y'all go through one of those?
Yeah, we did. Ours was, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, but yeah, it was crazy. It was
yeah, because y'all get it right before we do. We get it the following day. And it was really strange. And that's where I was really sweating because like I said, it's unpredictable. And with as many trees that we have on our property, you never know what's going to happen. So we shall see. I will let you know how many fallen trees I find tomorrow, because I'm sure there's going to be quite a few.
Well, yeah, I've been wondering if 2025 is Armageddon year, because half the country's covered in ice and snow and the other half's on fire. It's been kind of weird, but anyway.
It is. I mean, honestly, it's really strange, and the people that I absolutely know, they're the ones that are saying, "We told you climate change was real." I'm like, this has nothing to do with climate change. How arrogant do you have to be to think that mankind can make that much of an impact on a planet that has survived 2 global killers? I just don't understand these people. I don't.
Well, I mean, it's not about that. It's not about understanding them, because the first thing you need to realize is most of these people that are seriously oh my God, climate change is going to kill us all, are fucking insane anyway. And the rest are grifters like Bernie Sanders, who, has 3 houses and all kinds of crap, but then says, billionaire. Dude, you make enough money, you could be changing somebody's life if you really, really wanted to. So don't tell me about none of your crap. It's just dumb. But yeah, anyway, that's not what this show's about. But still,
yeah,
I mean, it is kind of, because
it is, because
well, I remember when I was a kid. Maybe it's just because time goes by so much faster now than it does when you're little. Because I always thought my parents were BSing me about that. My dad was, when I was a kid, was always I was like, man, it seems like it takes so long to get to Christmas. He's like, just wait till you're my age. You'll have 4 a year. Like, what? He's not wrong, though. And sadly, because of how fast time goes by now, and because of all the Christmases my kids wind up attending and my grandkids wind up attending, it's like I have 16 in a year. Because, anyway. But I also, it seemed like there was a lot more, snow when I was younger. And we also seem to have like actual breaks in seasons. Those don't seem to happen anymore. It's like you go from you go super cold, warm up a little bit, get cold again, warm up a little bit, get cold again, warm up a little bit, get cold again, warm up, stay that way for like a day or so. Feels like it's gonna be springtime. Holy shit, it's 112 degrees. What the hell just happened? Like, where do seasons go? It's the whole reason I used to love living in Oklahoma versus some of the other places that I've lived in, because we had actual seasons. They don't exist anymore. Just weird.
No, it's part of the it's a cyclical change with the sun. And I learned about that at Sunspot because I went to visit the Sun Observatory in Sunspot, New Mexico. And I took a tour. It was really cool, y'all. It was so neat to see all of these images of the sun because, what we have for telescopes, we put it on the sun, it's not going to give us much. But these are specifically for the sun. And it was so neat to watch the sun from that perspective, and there was a scientist who was explaining we are headed into a high cyclical stage for the sun, and it happens he said anywhere from about 70 to 80 years where it moves in that direction. And so it seems like there's going to be higher activity, this, that, the other thing. And this was just about 20 years ago that I went to Sunspot. And he was talking about that. And I was just, I was like completely entranced with the whole thing. And I learned a lot that year. But, that's something that school didn't teach me. And they certainly don't teach in public school about the sun cycles and things like that. And I imagine that that's one of the reasons why our seasons are kind of like, fluctuating a little bit. Excuse me. But you're talking to somebody who was raised in a tropical island, and she moved to the southernmost tip of Texas, where I didn't see snow till I was 32. I was on my way to my parents in El Paso. We pulled the car over because it started to snow. We were outside of Van Horn, and I stepped outside. Okay, I've seen it. Let's go. I was not excited at all.
All right, I feel like I kind of have to break in with this for just a second. Hold on, hang on. Since I'm breaking in, I might as well do it appropriately. Give me just a second here. So it appears, according to sources that are coming across my screen now, that Fire Chief Rainbow Bright has been fired by Mayor.
Whoa!
By Mayor
You're
Snow.
kidding?
Yep, she just got canned because leadership failed. I don't know how the mayor fires herself, but she needs to figure that out.
Well, I started. I was listening to the news, obviously, and I heard where the fire chief complained that she had not been given the resources and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, here we go. People are going to get thrown under the bus, and I said she's going to be the first one to go because she turned.
Oh, it gets even worse because somebody leaked a memo that, because they were talking about, what was it, like the 17.5 million that they cut from the budget. And a memo that was just released this afternoon that got leaked out. Apparently, the mayor was calling for another 75 million in cuts. As soon as that story broke, I knew the fire chief was toast.
Wow! Holy cow! But we've been saying this for a very long time, and this is exemplary of the dangers of not hiring based on merit. And I'm just like, will they learn to do some, to hire the right people? Will they learn to actually manage the water situation better? I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of had, and I think it was before you started tuning in, I think. I don't remember exactly when I saw you start chatting, but when there was one of the assistant fire chiefs that was like, "Oh, your husband that I can't carry out of the fire is in the fire. Guess he made some bad choices." Like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, I have seen that clip many, many times, and I can honestly tell you that she would never have gotten hired in the well, it was a volunteer fire department that I worked with, but never would have even been considered to be in the fire department. Not like that. Had she said something like that, she would have been dismissed, because that's, that means, oh, wait, you can't do the job, so you're going to blame the guy that you're going to leave to die. I don't think that's going to work for us. It was incredible to hear that and to know that it was accepted by the city and endorsed and celebrated. I'm like, okay. I'm like, the LA is just lost. I don't understand how this works at all.
I really got to learn to start closing my work browsers when we're not doing political shows, because this story hasn't dropped yet, but I know it's coming. Apparently, according to the Los Angeles police, there's not enough probable cause for the arson suspect that all the residents saw lighting the fires.
Because, carrying a torch is just not enough.
Running around city streets in red flag high wind scenarios with a fucking blowtorch is not enough.
It's not enough. I'm like, I don't understand this at all. And I weep for my friends that are in California, because they're not dumb. They're not this stupid, and they know they don't vote for this stuff, And look at, okay. Whew. Gotta calm down.
Okay. Well, before we get back on topic, there was one piece of good news today. Apparently, James Wood, who was absolutely devastated that he thought he lost his house completely because of all the alarms that were going off on his phone, apparently it's still structurally there. I don't know. I've seen some video that he shot, so his house is at least there. I don't know how much of it's left, but he was like, at least there's something still here. So
I'm kind of bummed about that, though, because I had gotten in touch with his wife and I invited them to stay with me. I was kind of hoping.
There's lots of smoke damage and stuff still. You might get lucky.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe they'll take me up on it. I don't know. Stranger things have happened.
So just to make sure that we're on the same page here, Miss, I'm a positive ray of sunshine most of the time, is actually sad that somebody's house didn't get burned down, because they may what the hell?
I am kidding. I'm really, I'm just gonna say that I think karma was working in this case. Yeah, I really do.
I do too.
If you get my drift, and I'm sure you do, and I'm sure everybody else knows what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure karma was working in this case, because the person that was relishing in, the misery of someone else, don't look at my name because it wasn't me, actually got visited by karma, and the person that was wished ill upon actually had a blessing. So I think, yeah, karma was doing her thing.
Yeah. Oh, I almost tagged the one crazy bitch, but I realized like 4 million other people did it. I was like, never mind. I don't want to dogpile that bad.
A lot of people tagged her.
Like, oh look, his house is still here, you dumb bitch. It's like, oh, that's gonna leave a mark.
I just, I feel bad for everyone, because California is going to make it very difficult for you to build back your house. And this is the one thing that people are not looking at, is that there's so many regulations and so many hoops that you have to now contend with to rebuild your own home. I can't even imagine living in that place. And my niece lives there. They just moved. They're north of that, thankfully. But, she's like, it is so expensive here. And I'm like, I have no idea why you moved with your baby daddy, but hey, you wanted to do that. So here's an experience, at least learn from it. And every single social media thing that she puts out there, it's so expensive. And it's incredible. I have to buy my own bags when I go shopping. No, buy your own bags and take them with you. Don't buy their bags. It's ridiculous. I was in Monterey a few years ago, and it was chilly, uncharacteristically chilly. And so I wanted to buy a sweater, and I went to the mall there. I walked to the mall, and there was a place that had beautiful sweaters from Scotland or whatever, and they had a Shetland sweater. It was maroon. It was perfect for me. And so I bought it, and they asked me, would you like to buy a bag? And I said, no, I'm going to wear it out because it's cold outside. And she looked at me like, are you sure you don't want a bag? And I looked at her, I was like, I bought it so I can stay warm. The whole purpose of me buying this sweater was to wear. Oh, I'm not sure you can do that. And I looked at her, I was like, I've purchased it. Here's my receipt. You already took my money. I was not going to be allowed to wear the item out. The manager had to come out, and I explained the situation to the manager. And the manager said, oh, of course you can. And she took the tags off and gave them to me. I put them in my purse and I wore it out. But apparently it's so unusual or so unknown to, I guess, the salesperson that she didn't know how to handle that situation. And she honestly thought that I could not possibly go out with the merchandise I had already purchased without a bag. It had to be placed in a bag somehow. And I no, I don't have to do that. I'm going to be wearing it. Oh, you can't do that. I bought it for the express purpose of wearing it out because I was cold. Well, and the same thing happened to me in Washington State. I went to a store and I was looking for, I had messed up my shirt, and I had to go to a ceremony, and I needed another white shirt. And I went to the one little boutique that was there, and I went in there and I said, I need to buy a white shirt. Luckily they had something that I could wear, and I bought it, and they rung me up with the price of a bag. I said, I don't need a bag. It says, you need a bag to take it out. I said, I do not. I need to wear it out. You can't do that. I'm like, yes, I can. Again, I had to drag the manager out. Again, I had to explain the situation. And this is years later, and they still think that way. That is the weirdest thing I've ever dealt with. They really wanted me to buy a bag. I mean, it's only 10 cents, but if I don't need a bag, I'm not going to buy a bag. So it was super ridiculous. And I was telling her, you can make your own bags out of recycled t-shirts. And I showed her how. I also told her, if you want to buy bags, make sure that the bottom part is lined with something like aluminum foil, parchment paper that you change out every day, because if you could put vegetables or any kind of perishable food in it, microbes can develop. So if you're not going to wash your bags every day, what do you mean wash my bags every day? Who does that? I'm like, oh my God. Welcome to California.
Dream of California.
It's just, it was, she's lived in Texas most of her life, if not all. And this was very eye-opening to her. And, and she was asking me, how do you know all this stuff? And I was like, I have friends that live in California who are constantly complaining about this stuff. I've been to California where I've had to buy bags, and I've noticed that several people actually make their own, and they have different types of bags for the different types of groceries that they're going to be purchasing. And that's very important. And she was like, I don't understand that. And I'm like, believe me, it makes your life easier. There's certain bags that are for bread and things like that. There's other bags for produce. There's bags for meat. And they're all, they will be lined differently. But if you're making your own, you're going to have to learn how to line them, unless you don't mind washing them every day. that you use them. And she was like, this is so difficult. I'm like, just buy the bags. Just buy the plastic bags.
By the way, but yeah. So, well, speaking of environmental things that make zero sense, and I know I've talked about this before, but I feel like I need to bring it up again. So, my one and only recent experience with this whole paper straw bullshit was a few years ago when we went down to South Padre and we stayed in a hotel in San Antonio about halfway through. And the irony to me, and I almost took a picture of it and I didn't. Now I really wish I had. Is how I figured out they had straws made out of paper was that. So usually when you get a plastic straw, right, it's wrapped in paper. You get a paper straw. Guess what it's wrapped in?
Plastic.
Plastic. The hell's the difference? I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, so wait, it's Texas, and they have paper straw in Texas.
It's San Antonio, and they have their own little fiefdom. All of these big liberal cities have their own regulations.
Still, it's
you go to the city that I lived in right outside of San Antonio. That regulation did not. But we got regular plastic straws everywhere. We got styrofoam cups. We had all of the plastic all of the time. You go 10 miles down the road and it changes.
I'm just like, Texas? Really? So that, like I said, I'd never used one, so I went ahead and tried. It made it like 2 minutes before I started getting bits of paper in my tea. I was like,
yeah, it's because it's not just the paper straws that we used to have before that were like bougie were wax lined. So it made drinking easier and it made you feel like you were, that it was like really neat. It was an upscale straw. When they went to completely paper, unless you finish that drink in the next 3 minutes, it's going to fall apart. And I would see people use it and then tap it and then put it to dry before picking it up and using it again. It was annoying as shit. I'm not even joking. It annoyed me to see these people doing that. So I never used the paper ones. I just drank straight out of the cup. And my sister asked me, "Don't you want to use a straw?" I said, "No, the cup is fine." She's like, "You don't know where the cup's been." And I'm like, "Then I'm immunized. I'm fine." I didn't know what to tell her.
I'd have just been like, look, those aren't even straws. Those are paper towel tubes for Smurfs.
Yes. Oh man. But whatever. I don't know.
That was Wednesday night, dear. Oh, wait, sorry.
Oh, that's right. That was Wednesday night. My bad. But anyway, getting back to, I guess, our topic, which is winter, which we don't like.
Which is probably why we keep changing the subject.
I don't know. I'm trying to get rid of. One of the reasons I don't like winter is that I can't work on my furniture. I can't do any of my projects. I can't work outside. I can't leave. Leaving the house actually is an issue because you never know how icy the roads are around here. There is no one is salting any of the roads out here. The only roads that get salted are inside the towns. So all of the farm roads, all of the ranch roads, those don't get salted. So you never know what you're going to run into.
Well, yeah, even here they just salt the snow routes. Luckily, I live right on one, so
yeah. So we're gonna buy a couple of bags to do at least our road and then the road that we traverse to go out of the property next door. And the neighbor, so-called, she's half a mile from me. She's also going to buy some and do her part, to keep at least that part of the roads as not icy as possible. Because we did learn with a friend of ours that was visiting, when it was icy, they got stuck because it's not a straight road. it does go up and down and side to side, it winds and everything. And they got stuck in a trough. And so we had to go use chains and get her car out and everything. So we're trying to get ahead of that. But I that's one of the reasons I don't particularly care for winter. I end up staying inside, and it's a big house, but I'm pretty confined to one area. So, and I need to keep busy. So that's where the embroidery comes in, the cross stitching, the knitting, the rock painting, which I'm picking up again. I had to suspend it for a while because, it was heading up to Christmas and I was just going to be too busy. I I'm painting one rock for a friend right now. It has taken me 4 weeks to paint 2 colors. So now that, things are a little easier, and yes, I'll be taking down my Christmas stuff this weekend. But next week, we're going to get a new garage door, which means I have to move stuff out of the garage, have them work on the garage door, and then put everything back inside, that kind of thing. So I'm not looking forward to that either, because that door was purchased in September, and they're just now getting around to bringing it. And I'm not a very happy camper with them.
Speaking of the suckage of winter. Oh no, I spilled my coffee outside. It's already frozen.
No. That's one of the cool things about living up north, that you can throw boiling water outside to watch it explode. But I think that's the only thing that I would do.
This reminds me of one of my not so pleasant winter stories from when I was a kid. So, and I don't know why, but for some reason, because normally whenever it's like when it was super icy and super snowy, we had an older car, so the heater didn't always work that well. So my mom always had me go out and be the one to get cold water and kind of pour it over stuff so it could start melting while the car was warming up. For some reason, this one morning, she asked my kid brother to do it, who was maybe 8 at the time. I guess this was when we lived in Seattle, because it was even worse there. So he was maybe 8 at the time. He thought hot water would do it faster.
No. No.
Yes.
No.
You know exactly what happened next.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, safe light repair, safe light replace was not a thing yet.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
No, that happened to a friend of mine when I was in college. She got it into her head that, the windshield was completely frozen over and everything. She needed to get on the road because she was going, where's she going? She was going down to Houston for the weekend or something. I don't know where she was going. She was from whatever. She was a bowhead, sorority gal. And so she's getting hot water. And I told her, you can't put hot water on that. It'll melt faster. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, I said, you can't, please don't. I'll help you. I'll help you. Just don't. But she's like, no, I know you're busy. And I was like, don't use hot water. Another gal told her, don't use hot water. Why? It'll break your windshield. You'll get a crack. So she was like, fine, I won't. And so we went to do our own things. She waited for us to go back into our rooms. She goes into because our bathroom was communal. So, she goes back into the bathroom, gets hot water, goes outside. And 5 minutes later, I hear her screaming down the hall. And I'm like, what happened? We all come running out. What's going on? And she's like, my windshield cracked. I said, did you use hot water? And of course, my girlfriend Belinda is next to me and said, you used hot water after we told you not to use hot water. It's like, but hot water would melt it faster, she said. And I said, it will also crack your windshield completely. Oh my God. And of course, so she was mad because not only did she crack the windshield, it wasn't her car. It was her father's car that she uses at school. And so she had to tell her dad, and her dad said, well, under no circumstances are you going to Houston now. You need to arrange to have somebody tow the car so that they can fix this, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, but Dad, I don't know how to do that. And he says, learn, and hangs up on her. And she is inconsolable. I mean, she comes out and she is just crying and crying. We're all like out on the hallway, trying to console her. It's okay. We'll help you. We'll help you. We'll help, And we showed her who to call and all that stuff. But I'm like, how stubborn do you have to be when after so many people tell you don't use hot water, you wait for us to go away so that you can get the hot water and do it your way anyway? We'll never understand that mentality.
It's because everybody thinks they're smarter than everybody else.
Well, she learned a really tough lesson because she also had to pay out of her pocket for the windshield. Her father was not going to do it.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. You did.
So, but we still chat on social media and everything. I just think it's kind of funny that she works for JPL.
Wow.
I
know. Okay. That just almost made my head hurt.
I know.
Like, how in the hell?
It was, she's one of those people who are completely you can actually, it's an inspirational story. She really had no direction or anything like that. It's almost like Legally Blonde. Like, oh, I have to get into law school. And so she just decided to do that. And she studied and she got in. And then when she gets to law school, they think I'm a ditz. I'm going to prove them wrong. So she starts studying. She starts getting serious about it. And that's what really happened to her. And it wasn't because of the car. The car was one of the many things that transpired during her stay in our dorm. But it was like,
Oh,
she what?
I got to call shots fired. Look at what M just said about your friend at JPL.
I'm not saying that out loud. But she decided, people think that I'm this really dumb person. I need to prove them wrong. And people like that have a single solitary focus can actually go on and do great things. And she was one of them. And it's to this day, it's one of the funniest stories ever because, we told her, don't do that. And she did it because she was stubborn and she thought she knew better. And she goes on to get a, huge degree and work in JPL. I don't know.
People with singular focus can do amazing things if they can get past the Sheldon Cooper effect.
But, Orty, you would have loved her. She wasn't skinny. She was a confection. I don't know how else to describe her. She had the most beautiful, her hair was like brown and blonde at the same time, and it was natural. It wasn't like she had natural highlights, but it drove her crazy because they only grew on one side. So she was constantly combing them to the other side to make them even. And I always told her, no, just highlight that one side, like Tulsi Gabbard does now, like that. And so, but she was round in all the right places. She was very pretty. She was very cute. You would have loved her.
You had me. You had me at round in all the right places, especially in
No, she was really sweet. She was really cute. But anyway, but yeah, that was a lesson learned by my girlfriend, and it never ceases to amaze me when I see people who are in a hurry doing that. That was the first thing that I learned when I came up and lived in Irving. I was living with one of my best friends from college, and she had ice on her windshield, and she was like, "I need cold water." I said, "Yes, you do." I brought her down some cold water, and that's how we ended up breaking it up and everything. And she never met my sorority friend because she left the year before my girlfriend came to college and stuff, so they never met. But we do enjoy that story a lot. Oh no, my favorite one was my mom would my I think my sister was outside. She had been drinking coffee. So she has her mug out there. And it's cold, but she was smoking a cigarette, and talking on the phone. She didn't want to disturb anybody, so she was out there and it was cold. And so the mug has gotten cold. Well, my mom, thinking that she was doing my sister a favor, goes out there and pours hot coffee in it. And all of a sudden you hear the because it wasn't a thick mug. It was more like a coffee cup type of mug. And I was like, "Ooh, here it goes." And it just goes everywhere. And mom was like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you a little story about, physics and the temperature."
Can we discuss the properties of ceramic and thermodynamics? Because
I know. Yeah. And mom felt bad. And we felt bad because it was one of my mom's mugs, or well, it's not a mug. It's kind of it's like a teacup, but it's a little raised and it had like a foot. I think it's for like Irish coffee or something. But, it was part of a set and it broke. And it took me 12 years to find one. And I finally found it. I give it to mom, and mom was like, "Oh, I was going to get rid of the set." And I was like, "Well, I'll take the set." So now I have a complete set. Fun times. But yeah, again, talking about winter, which we don't like.
yeah, no.
This is another reason I don't like winter, is because things break unnecessarily.
Things break. There's extra stuff you gotta do to get your house ready for the cold. You gotta winterize your lawnmowers and put in fuel stabilizer and take the battery out, or you gotta buy a stupid little trickle charger that you can plug in and leave plugged in so the damn thing works again, or both. Just
Oh
so
yeah,
much,
and
so much winter. I don't like it.
well, and Al does more winterizing than most people I know because he does have a lot of equipment.
Well, that's because Al voluntarily lives on the tundra. That's his own fault. I mean, he's like jovial. He's in the chat jovially talking about ice fishing. There's something wrong with that man.
I don't understand that.
And then he's all like, "Aggie would look hot in one of those hats and some insulated cars." Like, only if you mean stabby. Hot under the collar because she's stabby, maybe.
No, his tweet just now. Oh my gosh.
I haven't seen it yet. Hey, they fixed it. You can actually do links in the chat now.
You can now, yeah. You weren't able to before, and now you can. I
used to have to copy and paste it and throw it in the browser. I was like, wait, that's a lit up.
Same. Well, I had to retweet that, and I have no regrets whatsoever.
Hey, Al. Al, in my case, you're being generous, bro. Just saying.
I don't know. I don't want to know. La, la, la. So, but yeah, winter, winter, winter. Like I was saying, my mom actually asked me if I would knit her a lap throw so that she can when she has a preferred seat when she's watching TV, and it's a leather sofa, so it's kind of cold. So she wants a lap throw that she can like tuck under herself. So I said, yeah, I'll make you a throw. So I've been knitting her one, and then Dad got wind of it, and so he asked me for a blanket, and I was like, well, do you want a top blanket, like just for the top of the bed, or do you want it to fall, like a regular blanket would on the sides? And he says, just for me, because he apparently my dad does not move much when he sleeps. He sleeps on one position, and he's pretty much like that in that position all night long. So I figured a twin size would be about the size that he would need. But I was like, so let me get this straight. I'm making mom a lap throw, but you want a blanket? Are you trying to one up mom or something? And he just shrugs and says, yeah, I kind of am, actually. But I'm not supposed to say anything to mom. So, and they I think they want me to actually bring them down because I use chunky, knitting yarn. So it's kind of hard to put that in a flat rate box to mail. So look for me to be doing the KLRN podcast from my parents' house in not too distant future.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mom's going to be like, what is this? What is it? What do you mean podcast? What is this podcast?
I was so, let me see. I don't think it was the last time that I was home. Or the time before that. I think it was the August, not this past August, but the August before that. I was at my parents' and I was doing the podcast, and mom happened to get up and she heard me talking. And I heard her coming down the hall. So Brad was talking about something in one of his stories. So I just muted it. And mom comes in and says, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm talking to friends online. Oh, okay. Then she closed the door. That's all I said to her. And then I unmuted. But yeah, that was pretty funny. My dad has actually heard a couple of the productions. But sadly, his memory is not as good anymore. So when I was down there, I actually pulled it up. I pulled up Christmas Carol so that he could listen to it. And he thought it was pretty funny. And I was like, this is so sad because he's heard it already and he didn't remember, but he enjoyed it. So that was nice. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
he's always seemed pretty amazing, so I'm sad to hear that. But at least now he doesn't remember me accusing him of being a spy either, so there's that.
Yeah, everything goes to the grave with him, I guess, In a way, it's really funny because my mom was very, when the doctor said he is borderline for Alzheimer's. So he's on special medications. And I'm going, he made it to 92 years old. He's going to be turning 93 momentarily. And I'm like, and now he's starting to maybe perhaps get Alzheimer's, seriously? And mom was like completely devastated. And I'm like, Mom, he's 92.
Well, the same thing happened with my granddad. My granddad didn't start, was borderline Alzheimer's from like 92 to 95, and then was full-blown Alzheimer's from like 95 to either 98 or 99, because he's old enough that his birth certificate said we know he was born on this date, so it was either this year or this year. So nobody ever really knew exactly how old he was because they just
Oh, my dad has 2 birthdays, and they're both legal.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like, how did you do that? It's like, well, it's a funny story, and he told me.
Well, I mean, since he's had 2 birthdays, wouldn't that technically make him like 118 something?
No, they're the same year. He can't cheat.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
2 birthdays means you count double. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I always call him on the first one. My sisters always call him on the second one. And so they always ask me, why do you call him on that day? That's not the day that he observes. And I looked at them and was like, it's literally the date he was born, the actual date he was born, because it was recorded by the church on that date, but it wasn't recorded by the hospital until the following day. That's why he has 2 legal dates. My grandmother had an unofficial and an official birth date. Her official birth date was the recorded one, which happened about 9 days after she was born. So she always went with that one because it made her 90 days younger. So this woman is so vain. I can't tell you how vain my grandma was. But oh well. But yeah, I'm like, my dad's in his night to go this long without even a hint of that is amazing to me. My mom, she forgets shit all the time, and she's younger, and she will swear she has not forgotten it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Anyway.
Oh man.
I know. This was just a bitch fest about winter because y'all, I really do not like winter. I was born in Puerto Rico. I lived there for the first almost 10 years of my life.
Yeah, I got to think about that when I was like, hey, we could talk about snow days when we were kids. I was like, wait, she didn't really have any.
I didn't have any snow days.
I did. That's when I liked winter because I could go out and go, trudge through the snow and find a sled. And there was the empty field in front of my house that had the giant little hill that we used to ride bikes on. That was also where we did winter sledding. So that was fun. So
I remember listening to some of my college friends talking about snow days. And I actually had to ask them, what is a snow day? I asked one of them in private. I didn't want to seem like I was stupid, and I didn't want to be embarrassed in front of other people. So I asked one of my friends, what was a snow day? This was before the advent of internet. Okay. And I was not going to go trudge over to the library and look through the card catalogs until I found a reference book that could tell me what a snow day was. I just asked somebody that was born in Michigan what a snow day was. And she was like, you don't know what a snow day is? I was like, well, I'm from Puerto Rico. Oh, no wonder you don't know. I didn't tell her that I was raised in Texas. But because I wasn't lying. And she explained what a snow day was. And I thought, that is so awesome. I thought that was so great that the kids would have a day to actually enjoy the snow. I didn't want to enjoy the snow, mind you, but I thought it was kind of cool that kids would, that kind of thing. And it was, and it's the way she talked about it. It was the most awesome thing. You would have to wait. You would get up at 5:30 in the morning and start listening to the radio. Okay. Because again, no internet, no smartphones, nothing, no apps to tell you whatever. You actually had to listen on the radio for any school closings. And once that school closing thing came, you could hear your mom crying. But the kids all, it's like, it's a snow day. They would go outside. And she would tell me, it's like, we would spend the entire morning playing in the snow outside. And we would come in for lunch, and I was like, would you bring all that stuff inside the house? And she's like, no, we have a mudroom. And I again asked her, what is a mudroom? Because I had no idea what a mudroom was. She was so patient with me. And the romantic part of that snow day, the way she described it, it was so lovely and it was so neat to be out there with your friends, with all of your neighbors, just enjoying the snow. And I just thought that was really, really cool. As I grew older, I was like, I would love to experience that. Well, when I was in Germany, I experienced it almost 6 months out of every year, and I didn't like it. So the romanticism around the snow day is dead for me. I think it was because I was the one that was, you're liable. I did not live on base. I lived on the economy. So you're liable for clearing out all of the snow and salting it, because if anybody slips out there and it's in front of your house, you are liable for their injury. So I was always careful about that. And I was always outside at 4:30 in the morning and then back again at 6 to make sure everything was cleared and everything was still salted. And I mean, my neighbors thought that I was like Superwoman, because not even they got up that early to start doing their stuff. But I was just so paranoid that the German cops were going to give me a citation or a ticket or take me to jail. Because they could.
So yeah, I mean that was always the funnest part for me, was when I was a kid. But then in my chosen profession, snow days really sucked because we always had to work anyway. It didn't matter. Oh, you're first responder. You have to go even if everything's closed. Cool. But then again, they're like, this is why we made you pass all these driving qualifications, dumbass. It's not the point. Just because I can drive in it doesn't mean I want to. That's actually why I didn't take Gracie to school yesterday, because I was like, because I guarantee you they're going to close school like halfway through, and it's going to be right in the middle of me trying to do my show. And I have to shut everything down and then run up there and try to grab her. And I'm like, you know what? They told us yesterday, or day before technically now, that if there was even a hint of snow when we got up in the morning, not to worry about it, because they were just going to go ahead and close everything down. And then everything around us closed, but our schools didn't. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I was like, just message.
Are you serious?
I was like, message your teacher and tell her she ain't coming, because she ain't missed any school yet anyway, and I ain't trying to deal with all that. I was like, school year.
That's rude.
Well, and then they closed it today, and I'm like, the roads are better today than they were yesterday.
Kind of like a makeup snow day.
But yeah, so that's one of the reasons I never really used to worry about it, because I was telling them in the chat when I worked for OU, we used to get, because we were considered critical employees. So if they shut us down, or even if they shut everything down, we were still usually required to come in. But if we couldn't come in, they didn't count it as an unexcused absence as long as you had time available. If you could come in, you got a floating day that you could take off later. So I was like, I'll be there in a few minutes. At least until we move way the hell out here. And then I stopped. I was like, driving 10, 15 minutes in it doesn't bother me. I'm not trying to drive an hour on a highway with no. I have time. I'll take my excused absence. But that's honestly one of the things that used to drive me crazy about working in call center life. It was like I was back in fucking high school. They have tardies and absences and everything else. And I'm like,
no.
What is this shit?
But you're not even attending school. You were. That is bizarre.
If you weren't logged in by a certain time, you were considered tardy. And if you had too many tardies, they converted it to an absence. And if you got too many absence, you started being written up. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm back in fucking high school. This is bullshit. But yeah.
That's bizarre. That is bizarre.
But yeah, Al, it's your own fault for making yourself indispensable to a university. I kind of know how that feels. So I feel your pain because, yeah, he was like, I don't get snow days. I'm critical. I was like, yeah, me too. I was too.
Yeah, I
But
always felt kind of bad for the people that worked at the military hospital because they were all critical, and they had to go, and then each section would determine who could go home instead, but they all had to show up. And I'm like, that makes no sense. They're all showing up, so they got there. So why don't you just work? They had to show up before they could be determined non-essential and then sent home. It was strange. I never understood that, but whatever. Oh man. Okay.
well,
So I guess we're
yeah, the thing that used to drive me crazy about, especially when I worked for OU, contracted through DHS, is they would start putting out the notices that the offices were reduced services, reduced staff, whatever. So nobody would call us. And because the office never actually officially closed, they would still make us come in anyway. I'm like, nobody's calling me. So you're making me sit here and getting paid to do nothing. And you still would have paid me because you have to if you sent me home because we were reduced staff. So all you're doing right now is costing yourself electricity and everything else because nobody's doing any work. I never this is why I don't understand the rules. I just don't. So I'm like, you're you're paying me either way, so I don't really care, but you're costing yourself an awful lot of money for us to be sitting on phones that nobody's answering and lights running and computers running and everything else. And then the power went out. They're like, if it's not back on in 30 minutes, you guys can go home. Like, I told you. Stupid. Yeah. This is why I hate winter as an adult. Because people
well,
are so
out here, our power grid is held together by baling twine and bazooka gum. So never know what's going to happen. Again, the same thing with my internet. So
hey, don't be judging the bazooka gum, yo. The comic strips are the bomb.
no, it's actually working. It works for them. I admire them with that. I really do. If Puerto Rico had baling twine and bazooka, they wouldn't be in the shit that they are now. I can tell you that much.
Besides, until I upgraded my equipment, half the stuff we used to do here was held together with string and chewing gum. So I kind of feel your pain.
And still did better than Puerto Rico. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, not.
I mean, seriously, almost the entire island lost power New Year's Eve. And I'm like, well.
I was like, what the hell? But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm still laughing my ass off about the J6 thing where the chick was from I think she was one of the ones from like Guam or something, was like, I don't understand why we don't get a vote. You should have read the manual.
I'm actually stunned that happened.
I'm not.
Because that's one of the conditions of being elected. Actually, you're not even elected. You're selected to be, a voice in the House. You don't go through an electoral process. There's no voting at all. The governor appoints who's going to go represent the needs of the people over at the House of Representatives. That's how it worked. So it's not like, if you weren't even elected, why would you even have a vote? I mean, first of all, that's kind of like but you're not a state. So that was just so bizarre that she would say something like that.
Yeah, like I said, it all seemed a little weird to me. All right, well, believe it or not, we are just about out of time. So, and it'll take a minute.
You go first.
Do I have to?
Yes.
So much more. No, I don't want. No, can't make me. Anyway, all right, you can find me in about 3 minutes after. Well, actually, counting the break, about 8 minutes. But you can find me here in just a minute doing Going Mental with John Katz, who's hanging out in the green room right now, fixing to come on with me. Then tomorrow night, I'll be pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew. As far as I know, I think they are back tomorrow night. I guess we'll find out for sure if their power grid holds, because Alabama got snow, and their power grid don't know what to do, which has been fun. And Sunday night, I'm going to try to bring America Off the Rails back. It's been a minute, but I'm starting to feel a little bit more like my old self. And working right now makes everything better. Anyway, Monday I am off, so there'll be some replay stuff, and then I plan on doing a bunch of writing over the weekend. You can find me at Twitchy. Finally, hopefully, I can find a few minutes to write some stories. It's been a rough about 6 weeks. And then Tuesday, everything comes back around. We're going to start doing Rick Robinson Show noon to 3, Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday night, we will be doing Manorama. So that one is simulcast here on KLR Radio as well, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. And before that, you're going to be there, but you can say that in a minute. And then Wednesday night, I think we're going to do a bonus rails at 7, whatever at 8. No, I'm sorry. Bonus rails at 7, G at 8 if he's back. If not, it'll be extended bonus rails. Whatever at 9, and then Rick and Orty at 10, and then we change over to simulcast, which should be behind the Lima Lions Radio. And then SHR Media's BZ's Bobcat Saloon. And that's all I'm saying for now, because that's a lot already anyway. You can find me on Twitter at RileyRick73, and you can follow along with the station or the network at KLRN Radio. Apparently, I need another cough drop. How about you, Aggie? Where can folks find you?
You can find me at Aggie Rican and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern Tuesday nights doing the Cocktail Lounge with the ever suave, affable, and quaffable co-host Brad Slager. Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, doing He Said, She Said with the awesome you. Second Tuesday.
I don't know about the awesome part, but I know it's me.
Second Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern, we do Toxic Masculinity, where the guys get together and chat about guy stuff. And we host a babe of the month, and I bring the drink of the evening. And the first Monday of every month, Jeff and I host Spirited Books, which, where we review books that we are reading and match a cocktail or libation to it. That's always a lot of fun. Also at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So Aggie time, as people like to call it.
Hey, your spiel would be so much shorter if you would just list off the shows, the days, and say Aggie time and be done.
I should do that. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for our little anti-winter rant.
All right.
It was kind of a weird show, but okay.
Anti-winter rant, anti-climate change rant, anti-plastic, anti-paper straws rant. It was a little bit of everything, but we're going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Hang out for me and John. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding. Because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the conclusion of our Friday night double feature. I'm Rick Robinson. This is Going Mental. He's John Katz, but we haven't had a chance to test his mic yet, so we may have to do some finagling here in a second.
Check,
we do
check.
some music right now. And the break was only so long because I had to go run and get cough drops. Don't judge me.
Check
Sarah.
1, 2.
I saw that.
Can you hear me?
Hang on. Helps if I don't do that. Hang on. I've been flying solo for so long, I was using the board slider to lower the music and forgot that lowers you too. Yes, I can hear you now that I fixed your levels.
Check.
You're good.
Right.
Yeah, I could almost hear you before, and I was like, why is he so quiet? I'm like, oh, that's because you're lowering the main on the board instead of on the console. Dummy. Anyway, so hey, how you been, man? Welcome back.
I'm doing good. How are you, man? Long time.
Surviving the plague. I don't know what happened. Like 3 weeks ago, my little hobbit brought home something from school, and the next thing I know, I was down for like forever. It's like, what the hell?
People always tell me when you have kids or grandkids, anytime there's little kids around, you're going to be sick a lot.
Actually, for the last couple of years, I really haven't been. That's why I was so I guess I kind of made up for it pretty much all at once.
I've always heard. Yeah.
I was like, ugh. But yeah, because it was funny because a couple of years ago, this was always around the same time of year that Ordy and I would be trying to do shows, and then I would sound like I was dying. And then over the last couple of years, that kind of went away. And then this year was like, oh, just kidding. That was only a reprieve. Now you're dying again. I'm like, ah. But it was weird because almost everybody involved with KLR radio got it around the same time. I'm starting to think this stuff is figuring out how to transmit itself electronically. It's just kind of weird. But anyway. Paranormal. There you go.
There's the word.
John's new word of the week.
What's good, Calvin? Yeah. Being real sick is the worst. There's like mild little things, and then there's when you're just fucking dead. And there's
Dude, I literally did nothing but like lay around and watch TV for like 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate the last many years.
Yeah, you're still young. Give it a few.
I'm not fucking old, man. I played golf today. My toe is all messed up. My big toe is jacked.
You forget your birth year is in your handle, just like mine. I know how
it's old. Exactly. I'm old as shit.
And you're a hell of a lot younger than me, so shut your pie hole.
I hadn't golfed in a while. And we did Top Golf a couple weeks ago, which I'd never done.
I did that a while ago. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, and it kind of got my itch going to play real golf some more again. So I went out there. I was actually out there today, and yeah, like my big toe ligament. It's funny, you do in your head, you always just kind of think you're the same age. And golf's like a good barometer that you're not. Because you can feel, you're like, oh shit, like it used to feel different swinging the club when I was 28. You think you're still that guy. You think you can still swing it the same way. It humbles you. And then your body hurts after.
I don't know. For me, swinging at the club meant something completely different. But wait.
Swinging at the club. Did you ever go swinging?
No, but I knew lots of people that did. It was kind of weird.
There was a place. There's a place near me. There was another. Every town you're in, they're always like, that's a swingers joint. Like there's always that one place, that one bar where everyone's like, that's where the swingers go. Yeah, I always thought that was strange. You'd need like, I could actually tell a story, but I'm not gonna. But you would.
You see, that's just wrong.
I can't tell it on here, but you would need.
You can just change the names to protect the innocent.
I wish I fucking could, but you need like
You just said fucking. What could be worse?
It's not a good story, but you need a partner that's not like your loved one, because unless you're some weirdo cuck, you don't want anyone fucking like someone you're in love with. But if you can get yourself like a solid swing partner, someone who maybe you're not that attracted or whatever, but like they're decent, you can get them out there and, just use them as bait. Wouldn't be the worst lifestyle.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Now I have square dance calls in my head, and it's making me wonder what was going on there back in the day. Swing your partner. Oh wait, never mind. Never mind.
I feel like it's mostly like older couples that have been together a long time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
well, after a while, things
Yeah,
start
that's
getting.
what I mean. They're just like, fuck it, whatever. Like, might as well try some weird stuff.
Well, see, so that's when you've reached the point in your relationship, though, where whichever one of you gets up before the other looks at them and is like, "Is today the day I smother them with this pillow, or do I go make coffee?" Once you've reached that, it's kind of like, well, we might as well do something interesting so I can quit contemplating whether I'm going to murder you or not.
Does it always become that?
In my experience, because yeah, mine instead of doing anything saucy, just decided to go find her own and then left. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting when you see, because it is so rare, these couples that are like together just forever and then still truly happy and passionate. And it does seem like a very rare thing when you factor in all the relationships that fail is more than half, and then just take the other 45%. How many of those are just ideal, where they're still in love, nobody ever did some terrible shit, and it just goes for 50 years? Rare.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
exists. I just think it's rare and special when it happens.
it exists. It's just that it's hard.
I don't think people realize what a rare exception it is. I think people look at it like it's the standard and that it's normal, but yeah, it is statistically pretty low.
Well, part of it is, hell, that's like you now, especially now that we've got phones and stuff. You can't have a fucking cell phone and be on any apps and not find thirst traps galore everywhere. Hell, they're all over X now. There's Instagram, there's Threads, there's all these freaking dating apps. It's just like everybody's like overly stimulated, and it's
Yeah.
the second whoever you're with does something to piss you off anymore, is like, I can find 12 others just like you. Okay, fine, go do it. And then eventually they do, or they don't.
Well, and forgetting even the thirst traps, just the access everyone has to other people, normal people, even. If you're single, obviously, back in the day, you lived in Dayton, Ohio, you were going to date somebody from Dayton, Ohio 99% of the time, because where the hell else are you going to meet somebody? And it just opened up everybody to everybody. And then, yeah, if you're in a relationship nowadays, everyone just has access to everybody, and everybody is sliding into each other's DMs and developing these things even innocently at first. Again, like if you were married living in Ohio in the 80s or 90s, where are you going to meet and flirt with people of the opposite sex? And if you are, they're only going to be people from your town. Now you have some dude out in Chicago or New Jersey or wherever the fuck, and you guys have the same interests, and he slides into your messages and you're flirty. It's like everyone's just doing that every day. The amount of people that do that are in relationships is fucking insane.
Yeah,
even the ones that aren't crossing lines, they're still carrying on these things. It's a whole new ball. It changed overnight. The way people interact and communicate and the access people have to each other just fucking changed overnight. It started probably with those AOL chat rooms, but that was just scratching the surface of what it is now.
Dude,
remember those? Were you in there?
Yeah. We had CompuServe, so basically same thing.
Late 90s, early 2000s, everyone was in those AOL rooms.
Yep.
You had the South Florida room, then there was the Fort Lauderdale, the West Palm. You had your fonts. Everyone would be like, ASL. You'd ask them, remember ASL for age, sex, location?
Yep. Boy, that would confuse everybody now.
The good old days. Yeah.
I'm just going to make it up. I don't care.
Age, pronouns, APSL. Yeah.
No.
If, in fact, you're better nowadays, you're really better off asking.
No, now it's APGIL.
Yeah. Now you don't know what the fuck you're dealing with.
Age, pronouns, gender identity, location.
Yeah. Then they had those Yahoo rooms, and people would be the cam. You could flip your cam on and chat. That's where like the first sliding in and sexting strangers really started. Yeah, it's a
Oh.
weird world. It's a different world.
Well, it's getting even weirder now since we wound up on this topic because we didn't really pick one. I actually have a video clip that kind of goes along with what we're talking about right now as far as the evolution of things that are happening based on technology. I saw this today and I used it earlier today, but I swear I was like, "Are you kidding? Hang on, I think it's this one. I think nope, not that one. That one. That one. No, this one. Where? Oh, there it is. Never mind." But yeah, so this is a video from a tech fair, and it's terrifying.
This is Aria.
Jamie,
so this
play
is
the
our
clip.
flagship humanoid AI-powered robot.
Can you
She's
hear it?
highly realistic. She has her own
Yeah.
social media, so she might be competing with you one day. What makes her really special is that you can talk to her and ask questions. So maybe we can have her introduce herself and say something.
Hello. I'm Aria, the flagship female companion robot of Realbotics.
What's the purpose of this? Some of our peers in the robotic space make robots to replace human labor. We think that's a great area, but we think there's a much bigger area in having social robots. So for example, at a convention like this, we can draw a crowd very easily. Aria's been a little bit of a rock star here with people taking pictures and coming over. So she can promote your brand. The AI is all customizable, so she can learn all about you and your brand, and she can continue to communicate to people. There's a huge epidemic amongst adolescents and seniors on loneliness. So she can be programmed to know you and learn more about you. So she can make that bond with you that feels like a genuine human connection.
They're going to be in the houses?
We don't have the ability to clean the house. They don't do physical labor, but they're more there to converse with you. It's companionship. They can actually even be a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So we have built that into our AI as well. This is
You know what?
So that's terrible.
As soon as that chick in that video can hop up and suck your dick, you know what I mean? It's over. It's over for humanity. No, really. Like as soon as that girl
no.
can like realistically move over toward you and fucking grab your dick, it's over. It's over for society.
I'm just thinking, you get a twofer. You get Elon's Optimus bot to do all the cooking and the cleaning. You got that
We're
one. You're
getting
good to
into
go.
a weird fucking place. Listen, people are still. I have a few thoughts about this. People do crave. There's something to actual humanity, and if for something like that thing they just showed to become like indiscernible, I think we're 1,000 years away from that. Do you know what I mean? Where you would actually view it the same as you would a human. And I think people are just gonna. I saw a really good thing about how people are gonna want more face-to-face interaction in the coming years. We're gonna go back to kind of how we were because people are gonna crave. They're gonna want to once you start dealing with AI and automation, and with every interaction, people are gonna yearn for like real human connection and real human interaction. So I think there'll be some backlash to that.
Yeah, I expect some.
But I was talking about the other day too, which is interesting. It made me think of that. Technology. If you take away computer and internet related stuff, and even when you get into this AI and robotics and automation, that stuff's still, computer adjacent. When you get away from the computer tech, we haven't advanced much in any other area. We're still, when you look at our modes of transportation, plumbing and irrigation and electricity and all these we're still kind of rocking it like we were in the 50s and 60s. Medications. We can't cure anything that we couldn't cure before. Other than, you know what I mean? I was thinking about this because I was watching the forest fires. And I was like, we don't have tech to just put out a fucking fire. Like, you would think we'd have some way to cause some chemical reaction. It's like, no, we're just going to water bomb them from helicopters, just like we did in 1958, and dig trenches. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not that advanced other than all this crazy computer stuff.
I mean, so that's not necessarily true. We do have some interesting advances. We just don't
Like
use them
what?
enough. Like I know. Well, I know you've probably seen like some of these commercials for these new things that are coming out, where they have them all the time, and it's one of those things where you send us $25 a month, and we can make sure that places in Africa have arable drinking water because we can now pull the water molecules out of the air. If that's an actual technology that exists, I wanna know why we haven't started using that for commercial applications just like what we've just
Right. You know what? You're right. They have developed some stuff that has not become cost effective enough where it's gained widespread use. Another one kind of similar to what you're talking about is excuse me. Speaking of California, with their droughts all the time, they're next to the biggest ocean in the world. Desalinization. Getting the salt out. I mean, if we could cheaply and effectively get the salt out of ocean water and make it useful and drinkable and household friendly, it's like nobody would ever water would never be scarce again anywhere. It's like we're surrounded by oceans and we don't know how to even use the ocean water. There are desalinization plants. I think Israel might have like the biggest one. Some country that uses it for like a good portion of their water now, but the fact like California and our country, there's another one.
Well, I mean, part of that's because the hippies won't let them do desalinization because then we're draining the sea.
Nah, they can. You can't make a dent in that water. I mean,
I know, I'm just telling you, I know for a fact because I've actually had this come up with other people before. "We can't do that or we're gonna run out of
we
water."
could spend
Okay.
1,000 years, we wouldn't make a dent in. People don't realize
And not a drop
how
to
much
drink.
water's in the Pacific Ocean. You wouldn't make a dent.
Well that's because everybody's been told that all of our resources are
I mean,
finite.
technically,
And
mathematically, it is finite, but we don't have a population anywhere near big enough that we could even make any sort of noticeable difference.
Well, no, but what I mean by finite is you had folks like the Rockefellers over 100 years ago that started calling oil fossil fuels. Be like, "Well, it must have come from the dinosaurs," and it created this whole thing of scarcity. Now we're realizing that a lot of these places that we thought we depleted the oil, for some reason it's coming back, and we don't even know why.
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem. You have this whole scarcity thing that's been created because a lot of people have been able to make money off of the scarcity aspect while the rest of us have been left suffering. So that's kind of what I mean, that's kind of what you're watching happen in California right now. These people have enacted all these policies to supposedly do all these things to make California greener and better and good for the smelt and good for the salmon, and they forgot about the people. And I guarantee you, the Palisades, it ain't coming back because they will stop them. They're going to start doing some of the same things they're doing to some of these people in Maui. And even the ones that are able to rebuild, it'll be 3, 5, 7, 10 years before they manage to get it done because they're not going to have insurance companies in
Half
California
these
after this.
people had
They barely
one
have
foot out the door anyway, and were just looking for a reason to leave. So absolutely, they're not going to rebuild on their old plots of land.
Well, I mean, and even the ones that want to, the government's not going to let them. I mean, that's what's happening in Maui right now. They're like, "Oh, we're going to turn this back into a pristine island, and we're going to take all this land away from you now."
But don't you agree?
It wouldn't be taken away from me.
Don't you agree we should have some way to put out a fucking fire beyond what we had 80 years ago? By the way, the fire in general is just so. I was thinking about this. When you think about fire, it's just so weird, right? Like that you can ignite something and change the chemical reaction like that, and now the air is like there's flames. Like, what even is that? It's so strange, you know what I mean? But you would think we would have something that could somehow reverse that reaction.
I mean, you would think.
I
Well,
think
that's
just
the thing.
hurricanes too. We see a hurricane coming 2 weeks in advance, way out in the middle of the ocean. We don't have some sort of device we could drop into that thing
I mean, if anybody does, you should be able to tell me, sir, because I have it on
Right, but
there are Jewish
that's the
space.
other one I think about. It's like, how have we not developed something where when it's thousands of miles off the coast, we can't just disperse the strength of that eye that listen, I'm no fucking scientist. I don't understand how any of that works, but when you think about the money and lives that would be saved because they always go, well, because anytime I say, well, how come we haven't developed X, Y, or Z? Everyone always says the same thing: money, money, money. Right? There's no money in it. Who's doing the R&D on that? Yada yada. But you look at the money that these storms cost us every year. You would think it'd be worth $100 billion or whatever the fuck.
You know how I know it's worth something and all that's bullshit? Because every fucking sci-fi movie that we've ever seen has some sort of weather modification or weather control.
Right,
So-
but like, here's the thing: you don't even have to. And by the way, we do have some of that tech, but like, you don't even have to have weather modification or weather control tech. I'm talking about even like a rudimentary to like a bomb that you drop into this thing with a certain type of reaction that causes those bands. If you break up the structural integrity of the center of that storm, it's going to just dissipate into a bunch of little smaller storms and it'll die off before it ever gets close to us. We can't just blow that thing apart.
Yeah, I mean, according to some people, as far as the conspiracy theories, we technically can, and they've actually.
According to a lot of people, we're creating them and sending them here.
It's. Oh, but yeah, no, I mean, I think we should. I mean, that's just like the whole. It's not even about necessarily desalinization. One of the things that drove me crazy about California, especially with the Palisades fire, because I mean, you've got water right there. I started looking. There is actually equipment that you can buy that actually would allow you to use the salt water without destroying your freshwater equipment. So I'm just thinking, maybe that would be a good thing to have for like emergencies. So you can go, oh, we'll just grab the saltwater equipment and go put out this fire real quick instead of just watching it just crush thousands and thousands and thousands of acres.
Yeah, I don't get it when I watch and everyone's just watching stuff burn. It's like we're still such a helpless species. Like we can only do so much. I was referring to the desalinization more just generally, not with the fires.
Oh yeah,
just
I
the
know.
fact that they're always telling you there's a drought out there, and people that live in Cali will tell you, they're not allowed to water their lawns and they can only wash their car every so whatever. It's like, we need water. There's not enough water. It doesn't rain enough. It's like you live right next to the biggest water supply ever, and we can't efficiently just use that somehow.
Seems nuts, right? But I mean,
Seems crazy.
that's like everything else. I mean, hell, I remember reading a story all the way back in like 2015 where Barack Obama made a special trip to Israel and they showed him a car that ran on water.
Yeah, well, they say even this electric car tech that Elon and everyone are doing, they say that's been around, 100 years or whatever. I mean, that kind of stuff, yeah, it's not new. That type of innovation isn't new. It just takes someone has to actually develop it and it has to catch hold, with consumers and all. And
It just seems kind of weird to me that if there's an engine where you pour water in a gas tank and it separates the hydrogen to turn it into fuel and it sends oxygen out the tailpipe, that seems a lot more cost efficient and effective than coal-fired electric plants to charge a car.
I think in the future, we won't have to put anything in our cars and we won't have to charge them either. I think the car itself is just going to be like a solar battery. It's only going to need a minimal amount of sunlight to just keep itself charged all the time. The idea that we have to put something into it always just seemed weird to me, but yeah, we have the sun. I mean, when you talk about the power of the sun, it's like,
well, part of it is our solar panels are not very efficient.
that's what I mean. Once our solar tech advances enough, where like, the roof of the car is basically a solar panel that just keeps it charged all the time, even if you live in a rainy, cloudy place. I think that'll be the
So this is something that has always bugged me because to me it kind of reminds me of the alternator on a car. So you've got the battery that has to start it. The alternator keeps the current going, and then the engine does the rest of the work to keep the car moving, and the alternator handles all of the electrical components. But one of the things that drove me nuts, and I remember reading about this, and I don't know why it never got mainline, because to me, it seemed like the best thing to do as far as for like an electric car is you're right, is have like a roof that's solar paneled, which is enough to get the car started and keep it running. And then as you're driving and you're having to apply your brakes and everything else, you use the kinetic energy from that stuff to go back into the batteries to keep charging it while you're moving. And then the solar panels keep everything topped off while you're driving. I've heard about that technology, and it was years ago, and I don't know what happened with it because I'm like, that's kind of like a perpetual motion machine at
I
that
was just
point.
gonna say you touched on something I could never quite articulate either, which is I always felt like the movement of the car could that alone could charge the car as it's moving. Right. Perpetual motion or whatever you're saying. I totally agree with that. It makes sense. And I have no fucking clue how cars work, but
Well, no, I mean, I kinda do because my dad was a mechanic and a body shop guy, but and I remember and that was one of the things that and I remember when I was a kid, he would watch, like, these old shows, or these shows on PBS, like Nova and stuff that were talking about those kind of things, and there was technology about, once the car got started, if it was an electric car, basically what it would do is anytime you were stopping or when the brakes were rubbing, it would create a charge that would be put back into the battery, and it would allow the battery to be charged more quickly than just the solar panels by themselves. So in reality, as long as you were in stop and go traffic, you could pretty much go almost indefinitely, and even outside of that, you could go for almost 400 miles, which is a full tank of gas.
yeah, I mean, why couldn't even just the tires rolling create
See
energy
that
and
I don't
current?
know. That I don't know how that part would work. But I have seen the technology where basically the brake pads create friction, which is
I mean, you see people can create electricity pedaling a like an exercise bike, for example.
yeah.
So you would think just a car rolling could do the same thing.
You would think, I mean, yeah, because I mean, it's the pedaling, something connected to the wheels that creates the electricity that then generates it back into the yeah, so I
Yep.
mean, it could
Like a
technically
loop,
work. Yeah. I
an
mean,
energy loop.
but yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why we don't have half of the things that we should have by now, because I mean, this is something that I've been saying now since 2018. We have more computing power usually in our pockets than we have that supposedly sent us to the moon or sent us to low Earth orbit. And we still can't figure out things like how to make, you know, energy that can last.
Or how to cure any fucking illness from cancer to heart disease to anything else. It's like it's always right around the corner. That's what I'm saying. So let me modify my original assertion, which is other than computers and internet, we don't have any widespread advancements in society that aren't part of that world. It's all the same shit. And you want to talk about streaming and all that's all internet based. It's all computer based. This everything else we do in our lives is pretty much the same
Well, yeah,
as
but
it
it's all
was in
I mean,
1960.
part of that's because it's all bread and circus based, though. I mean, think about it. Like,
The jets we fly, the trains. I mean, there's been like very minor upgrades to things.
well, unless you count these new drones that are apparently
Again, but I'm talking widespread use, the stuff that affects your daily lifestyle.
Well, no, I know.
If you look at your daily life and you lived in 1968 right now, other than that supercomputer in your pocket and this type of shit we're doing now and internet and computers, it's all the same stuff. I feel like the internet computer thing really, because of that, it fucked people up. It's like we took this thing that nobody evolved for and we just inserted it into everyone's daily life. And I don't think people perceive it correctly. And it thrust us into this weird transitionary period. And it does change so much. Look at half the people work remotely now. All the real jobs. People are working remotely. They're working from home, whatever. You never could have done that before. So it's really changed, even though it's just that one arena, it's changed the way we operate. We were talking about before with relationships and um, all the thirst trapping and weird shit that's going on. It's like it's changed a lot, but everything else has remained the same.
Well, I mean, part of it is it used to take work to learn things and to gain knowledge. Now we have pretty much all the knowledge of the universe at our fingertips. So it's not a hard thing to get answers to questions. That's why it drives me so crazy. Like when I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm like, and they're like, I don't recognize the name of that. I don't know anything about that movie. Dude, you're talking to me on a computer. Look it up.
Right. Well, people still don't put in the work to be deeply knowledgeable about a topic. I said recently, wait to see how insufferable everybody becomes like when we merge with tech. Everyone's become an armchair expert, pseudo intellectual bullshit, clinging to their ideas that they have no depth of knowledge about. It's almost a disservice in a way. It's like, yes, you can actually go online and become deeply knowledgeable about any topic, but people don't. People see a snippet, they see a meme, they read one little post, and then they're like, well, I know everything there is to know now. I'm just as qualified as this scientist who spent 20 years researching it. That's what I see a lot of. That's a huge problem. Everyone thinks they're an expert now. They don't know shit. And it's because they were able to, well, I went on Wikipedia and I read about it. Like, you don't understand anything. Listen, I'm not saying I understand any of this stuff either, but I'll be the first one to say when I don't know shit about a topic. I feel like everyone online is just these self-proclaimed experts now.
What are you trying to say, man? I'm just playing.
It's brutal. You pick a topic and there's a million people on Twitter just with their heels dug in like they know everything about it. You couldn't have had that 20 years ago because they would have had to go to a library and check out a book to even have that surface level of knowledge to pretend like they're an expert. Everyone's just regurgitating the same stuff. Not you.
No, I know. I wasn't taking it personally. It was
Goes for everything. Look at any event of the day. Fires. Everyone's a fire expert on Twitter now. You know what I mean? You look at any event. Trump was shot. Everyone's a ballistics expert all of a sudden. Anything.
An AR-15 would have blown his ear off. No, actually.
Any event happens, everyone within a day feels like they're caught up and they're an expert to now speak on the topic. I don't know how we get. This is a big problem I see because there are real experts and everyone lost trust in what we used to view as the experts with Corona and a lot of other stuff. And I don't think everybody in these institutions is a bad apple. You know what I mean? And most of the people in these positions, if they work for, let's say, the CDC or something like that, they've spent decades laboring over becoming a real expert in that field with a lab coat on. You know what I mean? And there has to be a way where we can trust real experts again, because we can't have where it's just this Wild West of you are the media now. It's like, yeah, kind of, but 99% of people on here are retarded. So, and they're just saying bullshit. So it's like, yeah, it's a cool sentiment, but we still need real experts. We still need people that were in the trenches for 30 years learning that thing. Not just a bunch of fucking demented teenagers ranting from their mom's house. Like we don't know who that is. It's a dog with laser eyeballs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always wanted one of those.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. No, I do.
Like, great, we're the media now. Everybody has a say. Cool. Then who do you trust? Because if everyone's an expert, then nobody's an expert.
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if everybody's a millionaire, nobody's a millionaire anymore because everybody's got money.
Right. Well, now it's become this free-for-all where everyone's like, fuck the government. We can't trust what anybody tells us. We get to tell the truth now. But then you look at what that is, and it's just a mishmash of incorrect information and people who have no clue what they're talking about.
Well, I mean, and part of it is, and I've seen this, is people will go through and they will, pick up a couple bits and pieces from somebody else, and then they'll expound on it, and then they'll say, well, this and this and this, and then I watched this happen in real time the other day. I had two different content creators, both of which that I follow, fighting with each other because one of them was stealing work from the other one, and I'm like, I'm staying out of this. I'm Switzerland. My name's Bennett, and I ain't in it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And look, I am a fan of the fact that a lot of this stuff has become monetized because that's part of what makes my life easier now that this is how I'm trying to make my money. But the fact that basically you have to be just insane to make a decent amount of money just makes zero sense to me. Especially with everybody trying to do the whole "we are the media now," then stop making shit up. You're just as bad as the media you're making fun of. Quit it. If you're going to report something, report it accurately. If you're going to talk about something, make sure you understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, the Twitter monetization. If you're gonna say we're gonna monetize you based on engagement, then obviously, especially anonymous accounts, but even a lot of other people that don't give a shit are just gonna purposefully say the most outlandish thing all day because what drives engagement more than being outlandish and controversial? That's just human nature 101. And I could never be like that. It's like it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy when I see it because of the people that are engaging with it. And it's like you're just taking these impressionable, miserable, misguided, lost souls, and you're just beating them over the head with nonsense, and they're lapping it up. Drives me crazy. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be a way to kind of steer that ship back into, because it's just chaos right now. The information pipeline it's chaos. Nobody trusts the traditional stuff, and then everyone else is just, let me just say the craziest thing and see what sticks.
Or they just post bobs all day.
Listen, I actually think I was joking because, I had recently said I was leaving Twitter because of this type of shit, by the way. Specifically, the Jew hatred stuff was really getting to me. And I was like, I can't, I muted all or whatever. It's so sick and overt and over the top now. It's really, and I was like, Elon's not only allowing this stuff. I was like, these people wouldn't even have a voice otherwise. And he's verifying them and he's monetizing them. And it's like, it's one thing to say free speech, but these aren't public figures that would otherwise have a voice. These are people that nobody even knows who they are, and you're creating their voice for them. And I'm not articulating that well, but that's a huge distinction for me. And so when I came back on Twitter after a few days, because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just still be positive and fun. And like, why let these guys fucking ruin it for me? I'm just completely block that nonsense out. But I wrote a thing saying exactly that. I said free speech is one thing, but to actually platform and monetize these people is a whole nother thing. And I went on to say, positivity will always win or whatever, some bullshit. And within a few days, Elon actually stripped the blue checks from all those people and then said he's not monetizing that stuff. And I was like, maybe he read my thing because I mentioned him and I just changed the whole world, I'm joking, but
the power of positivity. You must have come back when I was sick because I didn't even realize you were back until I saw a post.
He came back and said he's going to start encouraging more positive things and pictures of mountains. And it's like, you know what? Maybe it is because of what I said. There is a difference.
So, Ordy, we know who to blame for your tweets being removed for like 7 days.
Love's not even the right word. Of course, I want first of all, free speech never has ever in any setting applied to employment. It's such a stupid thing, this argument that, well, I should be monetized if it's free speech. Go into work and tell your boss to go fuck himself. Go into your office and walk up to your coworkers and call them a bunch of bitches and hoes. See how long you have your job. You don't have free speech to be monetized. You don't have freedom to be Go to your job, and instead of doing your job, sit down on your phone and play Tetris. And when your boss asks what you're doing, tell them to fuck off. But you can't get arrested, but you won't have that job anymore. This isn't complicated stuff. So for people to get so upset and be like, well, why can't I just rant about Jews all day and still get paid? Well, you still have, you could still say whatever you want. No one's getting suspended. But to get paid for it, to have a platform created, I don't know. There definitely does need to be a distinction, or otherwise you're just encouraging more and more of that same type of stuff. Already, I don't really think it was me, but it is odd that it was like I said that whole spiel and I mentioned Elon in the tweet, and it was like 5 days before he made those changes. But no, not with your account, dude.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, right around the same time he made those changes, all of a sudden for like 10 days, Orty would post something, whether it was a main post or even a reply. Within like a minute, it was, this post is unavailable.
Nah, that wasn't me. I don't think even any of it was me, but.
Oh, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, but no, you can't just say, hey, we're going to pay you every time someone replies to you, good or bad. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, I do
purposefully say the craziest stuff.
I do think he's taken the positivity aspect a little bit too far, because it kind of reminds me at this point of virtual San Angeles.
I don't think that you can't have negativity, but listen, everybody knows first of all, there's a difference between being negative and critiquing things or whatever to actual evil, hatred. Orty's not an evil person. You know what I mean? Like, anybody with common sense could read Orty's stuff and understand where he's coming from and the tone of it, even when he says vile things. But then there's actual people. You can't even talk about it anymore because it's all been so diluted and everyone's been accused of everything they're not guilty of. But it's like, no, there's still real hatred, and there's still people on there whose sole purpose is to want you to hate in a really dangerous type of way. And yeah, imagine just paying these people tons of money and being like, good job for all that hatred that you promoted. Well, we're gonna pay you more, and the more you do it, the more you're gonna make, and then it just keeps on going. I mean, I don't know how you properly regulate something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
Common sense.
Common sense is a flower that does not grow in everyone's garden, sir.
It's true. I always go like, you need someone to just make judgment calls sometimes that has common sense. I don't know. A lot of these accounts have a huge following, and their entire existence is devoted to waking up every day and just tweeting about the Jews all day and how Jewish people are responsible for every evil thing in society and throughout history. And it's just all they do all day. And it's even become this trendy thing. And I don't know.
Yeah, there was a dude that was all up in my mentions like the day before I got sick, and then luckily when I got sick, I was gone long enough that I think he got bored. But he spent like an entire 4-hour span trying to convince me that every Jewish person was a golem. I'm like, you're weird.
Well, that's what they do all day, and it's like, you know, I look at an account like a Jake Shields and these types of dudes, and it's like, once they switched their identity to I'm just going to rant about Jews all day, yeah, their engagement quadrupled more, 10 times the engagement and the following and the attention. And then they sit there and bitch and go, well, I've been demonetized and all. It's like, you haven't. What you've done is gotten a million times more attention than you ever had because you're saying something now that's considered, controversial. And, yeah, it's divisive and it's intentionally, it's the intent behind it. And that's the part you can't put on paper, but you can clearly see the intent that's going on versus just objective criticisms. And everyone should be able to say whatever the fuck they want. Obviously, I would never say put this guy in jail, unless he threatens somebody or whatever. But I also was just like, I don't know if I want to be a part of a company that rewards that shit and that is technically employing these people. Because that's the thing, they wouldn't exist otherwise. These people, they don't go out and say this stuff in the real world. They won't even show their name and face on there. And even the ones that do, they're not going out and saying it in the real world. They can't say it on anywhere else. You can't go on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or anything. Yeah, you can go on Rumble or whatever the fuck. So it's like you're creating this place that wouldn't even exist otherwise. And you're rewarding it. And I don't like that.
I think something's listening to our conversation because I've been flipping around for just looking to see what all would pop up. Remember how you asked why we don't have cures for cancer?
It's that sex robot.
According to Alex Jones and Mel Gibson, we do have cures for cancer.
I actually saw that clip recently. They're talking about ivermectin and some other fucking thing. And
oh, I know. I just thought it was funny.
I saw those clips. I actually watched most of the Mel Gibson Joe Rogan episode. Yeah, no, listen, I do think that there are cutting edge things happening with not enough funding that if we gave them the proper resources and attention and funding, I think we probably could have started curing cancer a while ago. Imagine if you just put, like when Rona was happening, I thought to myself, I was like, what if every channel had like a daily heart disease death tracker or a daily cancer death tracker? And they just ran stories all day about all these families losing loved ones to cancer and heart disease. Like we'd figure it out.
Yeah, eventually.
Even at its peak, like even with the peak numbers they were reporting for Rona, it still wasn't higher than like heart disease deaths every year. Nobody gives a shit.
Seems a little crazy though when you think about it. With as much of a fit as they threw about all that, for it to be, less than the stuff we deal with on a daily basis, just seems kind of weird to me.
Here's the part I want to ask these people about Corona. Is nobody gets the vaccines anymore. Even the people that I knew that started and got the first one and then the booster, like nobody's keeping up with like round 7 and 8. And it's like, I think the most recent stat I saw was like maybe 18% of the US population is like current on their vaccines. So if 80 something percent of the country is no longer vaccinating themselves, where's all the Rona deaths that we had the first couple of years? Like, why are they not? First of all, the vaccines aren't preventing anyone from getting it anyway, but like, what happened? Where'd it go? Why aren't the hospitals overloaded anymore? Where's the people on ventilators and shit? What happened?
I can answer that question.
No, but how do they explain? In other words, if you were to ask the head of whatever government, CDC, how do we defeat Rona like we have? What's their answer?
They don't have one because nobody's asking them that question.
It's like, well, they can't say it's the vaccines because no one's even taking them anymore. And the vaccines that are out, the original vaccines didn't last this long. So they can't be like, well, everyone got vaccinated. It's like, yeah, everyone got vaccinated 3 years ago for a strain that doesn't exist anymore. So what's keeping everyone from going on ventilators with these new strains? Saw some post recently. Somebody was like, I just got my RSV shot and my flu shot in one arm, and I got my corona shot in the other arm, and I was up at 2 a.m. with pains, but I'm doing okay now, and the swelling's gone down, and at least I feel better knowing I'm fully protected for this season and whatever. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, imagine going in there getting all those shots and then being like unironically proud enough to post about it.
It's like, yay, I'm fully vaxxed and boosted. My arm's about to fall off, but I'm fully vaxxed and boosted.
Right. And they don't even see the irony in the part of where their arm is hurting all night and they to the point where they can't even sleep.
It's all insanity, man.
We go through these crazy things and then we stick them on the, like, no one ever explains it. We just move on and go like, oh, whatever, it's fine, nothing to see here.
Well, I mean, those of us that have been connecting the dots know the answer because they did finally admit that it likely did come out of a lab. They won't admit that they don't know whether it escaped from the lab, was accidentally released, or was actually just let out on purpose. But that would explain why suddenly it's not as bad as it once was, because that means it's a very young virus. Because viruses are designed to do one thing, and that's propagate. The very young viruses are the ones that, like, all of a sudden there's a new strain of something. That means that it's going to be the most deadly it's ever been in the beginning of its life cycle because it hasn't figured out how to adjust yet to prolong the life of the host to make sure that it can keep propagating for as long as possible. That's why Ebola is so bad, because it's one that just once it's in, and it's going to replicate as fast as it can and kill you. But that's exactly why at this point COVID's basically become another flu strain, because there have been thousands of iterations of the virus and it's figured out how to propagate without killing the host. That doesn't happen in young virus cycles. That's one of the reasons why we knew in the beginning, for anybody that understands this kind of stuff, and I surround myself with people that do, people with, that have done nursing, doctoring, all those things. They're like, this isn't normal. For this to be this virulent is not normal. And they were like, why won't the government tell us that this isn't normal? And here we sit 4 years later going, oh, yeah, all the social distancing, we pulled that out of our ass. We knew the masks didn't work. We just wanted people to feel like they could do something. Oh, and by the way, it probably did come out of that lab that we told everybody to tell you that was impossible.
Everyone knew that whole stupid bat story. It was like, at the time, immediately when they said like, oh, it's also, by the way, this is like a couple miles up the road from the lab that creates these exact type of fucking viruses and works on gain of function. It's like, of course, what, you think that's a coincidence? The fact that that was considered the conspiracy instead of just the most obvious, clear-cut case of what happened. Like, the conspiracy should have been the wet market or whatever else they were talking about. The fact that this started right at the lab that works on these exact viruses. I mean, come on.
The fact that China knew enough about the virus to keep people from traveling within China, but allowed people from within Wuhan province that weren't allowed to travel anywhere else in mainland China to get on planes and leave.
My whole theory was, and I still kind of think it, is that China wanted to thin out their own sick and elderly population because, that country's been obsessed with population control forever.
Oh, I think you're not wrong.
What's that?
No, I think you're absolutely 100% right. I think you are not wrong. But
yeah,
you also,
but people don't say that. I was like, look, China used to only let you have one kid when I was a kid because there was such a strain on their economy with the overpopulation. And no one's a bigger strain on an economy than people who can't contribute. People who are really sick and people who are really old. So I was like, it sounds like they made something that went, hey, this is only going to kill really sick and really old people. Everyone else will be fine. And let's thin out some of the dead weight. And I think they unleashed it on their own people.
And I think you are 1,000% right. And then when they figured out that it was a lot more virulent than they expected, they closed off the province that was the primary infection point and then still allowed it to run its course. But then everybody seems to forget that there is a word in Chinese that means both crisis and opportunity. So they saw a chance to do the same thing to the rest of the world while also starting to buy up PPE weeks before they started letting people travel. That's another reason why I know they knew some of what was going on because they started buying up PPE like within 2, 3 weeks before the rest of the world was like, oh shit, we got to shut down. And then they started selling it back to the rest of the world, going, oh, we China, we love you, we take care of you, we take care of you a long time. Here, have some masks.
Why don't I hear people ever say that theory that me and you just said, that it was a population control device?
Because one, we weren't allowed to say things like that back
No,
then.
but nobody's, even the people that are on like the Alex Joneses of the world, like they have other sinister theories, but not that one.
I mean,
You know what
floated-
else made me think
I've
that
floated it before, but-
immediately too was that kids are not even affected by this thing, to the point where like the kids weren't even getting sick. So I was like,
Yeah.
of course they're like, let's make something that the kids will be fine. Like, don't worry, every healthy person, every kid will be fine.
Yeah.
It's just gonna mess with people that already have cancer or already have failing organs and things.
Or already eat too damn much in the first place. But yeah, I mean, think about it for a second. And this is why I don't know if they meant to let it out when it came out. And I think that's part of why they just started trying to do everything they could to cover their tracks. But I do believe that was the original intent because if this thing had been engineered just a little bit better, think about it for a second. They could have exposed it to children and made them carriers who go back and hug all over their grandparents and everybody else. And next thing you know, grandma and grandpa can't do shit no more or dead.
Well, that's kind of what they did. I mean, kids were probably the biggest carriers. They just weren't getting sick themselves.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying I don't think it was engineered to the point of what they wanted to be able to do with it. I don't think they
No,
I don't
but the
think
fact
anything
that it
intentionally
doesn't,
got let out.
like when you look at the flu, for example, one of the most vulnerable populations to the flu, aside from all the old sick people, is little kids. Little kids get deathly ill. You know, you don't want your 1-year-old, 2-year-old, they'll get fucked up by the flu. The fact that this thing, it's like you didn't even know if your toddler had it because they don't even have symptoms. That sounds like a very engineered thing. That aspect was very purposeful.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, now we got the bird flu coming.
Oh yeah, that's they've been trying to ramp that up now for a while.
I'm more scared of these infections. All this, I'm always reading about how antibiotics don't work all that well anymore, and that we don't have any new ones. That shit always scares me. That shit's way scarier than these respiratory viruses.
Well, yeah, it's always bothered me too because that's like you've like in other countries where you can get antibiotics over the counter and they give them to you all the fucking time, and I'm like, as far as I know, that eventually makes them ineffective. This seems bad.
They're
And
already ineffective. I mean, we have in this country alone millions of cases a year now of antibiotic resistant infections.
Well, yeah, but that's because that's just it. Viruses mutate over time.
And
You
the
want
overuse of those antibiotics, and every doctor I ever knew that go in there with slightly swollen tonsils, here's a Z-Pack. You know what I mean? It's like, just give it out like candy. I purposely don't take them unless absolutely need them just because I don't even want to build up like my own personal. Like I want it to always work when I need it, but
No, I completely agree. But yeah, I mean that's part of the problem is they I don't know if they do it as much as they used to. Because I mean, I've honestly kind of gotten to the
they
point where
have cut down. They
I
have.
rarely I rarely go to the doctor unless I absolutely have to. I usually find a natural way to deal with it if I can.
Same.
Um, but so but I mean that's just it. There are natural ways to boost your own immune system and even some natural herbs and stuff that have antibiotic properties if you know how to use them. So to me, it always seems it's always like we always try to sciency make nature better, and I'm like, nature's been taking care of us for hundreds of thousands of years. Why do we always have to make it better?
The best one I know of for that really actually kills things is Manuka honey. And
Yeah,
it's
you were talking about that one of the last times we did a show. I meant to look for that, so I'm glad you
dude,
mentioned it because I forgot.
remind me to send you. I'll send you the link. I have two different ones. I have the one that I just take like if I have a little scratchy throat or something. It kills like 90% of stuff. But then I have a really extra high. They get stupid. Even the ones I have that are stupid expensive, it still like goes way the fuck up from there. But any jar of Manuka honey you get is gonna have a UMF rating and an MGO rating. And I think if you're above like a 20 UMF and a 500 MGO, it kills like 99.9% of bacteria.
So circling back around to AI and stuff, I have been having way too much fun with Grok lately.
I was just saying it's fun. It's the exact thing I would have really loved when I was a kid. I would have been addicted to that thing. Just making like funny images and having it answer silly things.
For me, it's I'm very creative, but I have zero artistic talent except for, I can do designs and I can set up scenes and I can edit music and audio and all that. But as far as like being able to create, actual like cartoons and stuff, I've never been able to do that. I can't draw or anything for shit. So being able to sit down and basically teach something how to take detailed instructions from me and make images like the one I have on the screen right now. I did like 6 of these things yesterday. Just over and over and over again. And this is one of my favorite ones, and it's Smokey the Bear holding a piece of cardboard that says Gavin Newsom is a dick.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's the best. I have fun with it too, and I'm always playing around with it.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been teaching it how to help me with like business proposals and stuff, and I did a couple once I got them good for some of the folks that we syndicate through, and I sent one to Sean, and he's like, "Holy shit, this was amazing! When did you have time to do that?" I was like, actually, Grok helped me with most of it." He's like, "That's funny. I usually just tell it to roast me and shit, and you're figuring out how to use it for effective stuff." I'm like, yeah, it's just I'm a nerd. But the thing does legitimately learn. It's kind of funny. It's funny because now that he's opened it up to everybody can use it, it's getting really smart and it's kind of scary.
No, it is, and it's funny because like when you ask it something, excuse me, having an indigestion issue here. I do it with Meta also. The Meta AI, I'm always asking it questions. Like I don't even Google shit anymore because I just use Meta. And Meta and Grok, you ask it a question and it'll write you paragraphs, but it's not copying and pasting someone else's language. Like it's actually taking a conglomerate of info and dictating in its own language. It's really amazing.
So here's a thing
I'm
that
choking to death over here.
Here's the thing that I found interesting. You know the Grok account?
Yeah.
The AI actually uses the account with human help.
Say that again?
Grok is actually the one creating the posts. They just have to go through final human approval before they'll post them.
For what?
The X account for Grok.
Oh, got you. I don't even think I've ever looked at its account.
Yeah, it has. There was a Grok account, and one time when I was, playing 20 questions with it just to see if I could trip it up, I was like, "Okay, so I have a question. Like, is that you running that account?" And he's like, "Well, I do have access to the account, and I do create content, but there is human intervention before it gets posted." I was like, "Holy shit!"
That's wild. Well, you have to, right?
Well, I mean, it's one of the ways that it learns.
No,
I mean,
but I
that's
mean, you have to have a human reviewing that, right? Like, you can't just let it go crazy.
well, not yet, but they may try to let it free range eventually. That's like that thing that I posted in the simulation room where they've put AI into a simulation and it was created thinking it was a butterfly, and they've just let it free range as a butterfly. That just seems crazy to me because that kinda goes exactly right back to what the hell we were talking about a couple months ago when we had that topic, is like, is all of this a simulation and we were just born into it and we had to learn as we went? Because that's exactly what happened with the butterfly. It was created, it started as a caterpillar, it cocooned, it then learned how to fly, so it's had all the stages of the life of a butterfly, and as far as they can tell, this AI thinks it's an actual butterfly. That just
Yeah.
then when I read
No,
that, that
I'm
blew
with
that
you.
blew
I
my mind.
still I still fall back on spirituality with that stuff. I still fall back on that. I do believe that we have souls. And so I don't know if you can ever truly replicate that.
Well,
But I don't know.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but this is one of the things that I'm starting to wrestle with the smarter and smarter these things get is since we are in essence electrical energy, because that's the one part of us that never dies. Energy and matter can be created but never destroyed. There are just different phases of it. And at the end of our cycle, we basically return to the spark of energy that was supposedly breathed into us with the breath of God. But my question is if all sentience is basically electricity, then at some point, would these things be able to become intelligent enough where they start being able to develop something like some form of a consciousness that would carry on after their body's destroyed or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend how much is dependent on what a soul is and that occupying, because if there is this system of, if there is some other spiritual realm, you know, where our souls live for eternity, um, you can make a computer as conscious and smart and capable as you want. It's never gonna get assigned one of those souls, right? So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
just
know. It could be conscious. I mean, that's a semantical thing maybe, but I don't know. I don't know that it'll ever be. I think, well, I've said this before. I think we end up, I think we ultimately we merge with it. I don't know that it just becomes its own thing, and I think if we merge with it, then we get into an area where we kind of become a new species, you know? Because what are we going to do with this stuff when it becomes amazing is we're going to want to, we're already doing it with the Neuralink. We're going to want to implant it in ourselves. That's always ultimately the goal, right?
yeah.
You know, we carry these phones around because we're basically merged with the technology now. This phone's become an appendage. So I can pull it out of my pocket. I could tell you any fact in the world. But at some point, that's going to be inside me, and I won't have to pull it out of my pocket. And those electrical signals I send in my body are going to be incorporated with this database.
So just to clarify, you just did say at some point this thing's going to be inside you.
Yeah, I think we ultimately will merge with it, and I think I think we become cyborgs for sure if we survive long enough. You can't tell me if the human species is around in 5,000 years from now, you know, the equivalent of the ancient pyramids to us forward, that we won't be cyborgs of some sort.
I have a feeling we'll probably collapse before that happens.
Right, but if we were around, we're already inserting it into ourselves now. So think about in 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily wrong.
I mean, 2,000 years from now is from the longer than, or the same time from when Jesus to now. It's like, yeah, we'll be cyborgs. And then I think it gets weird. I don't know. But you're right. Maybe we're never meant to get to that point. Maybe we just keep resetting when we get close to that weird shit.
So you're saying after we become cyborgs, it gets weird?
I think that's when it gets extra weirder. Yeah, I think right now, I think we're still the same. We're still the same thing we've always been. That's what I was saying. We have all this computer tech, but like, we're still just the same creature that we were, but 200 years ago when we didn't even have indoor electricity and plumbing. We're still the same thing. We haven't changed. Just the way we operate, but when we change into something, that's when it's going to get freaky. When we start putting those neural implants in, and when that sex lady can like make you a roast beef sandwich,
Oh,
I don't know. I don't think we'll be around to see the weirdest stuff. I don't think it'll be in our lifetime.
So here's another little interesting side note that happened while we've been taking breaks from shows. George Jetson is officially 2 years old now.
What do you mean? Got you. Wow.
Cartoon character George Jetson was born in 2023.
Wild. Yes,
Also,
that's a perfect example. Is look at that show. Well, why don't we have any of that stuff? Also, sorry, go ahead. What?
And also, we now have a new generation. Gen Beta started with January 1st, 2025.
I saw that they were naming them Beta. Well, they just had the Alpha generation. So I guess they're just following the alphabet.
Not necessarily, because everybody seems to forget that there's always these kind of generic tags at first, and then as a generation becomes more prevalent, the name gets changed. We were I don't remember what they called us at first, but it wasn't Gen X. That actually came from a book title. Because X was kind of the unknown quantity, and nobody knew what.
And they definitely weren't calling baby boomers before they boomed out all the babies. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
That came later. So Gen Alpha and Gen Beta may change. What I find is interesting, and Stacy pointed out, it may have something to do with how much faster our technology evolves now. The two most recent generations have been really short.
Yeah, that's something I talk about all the time, because the way that people are, like, it used to take a long time for culture and trends and things to set in and change where it was universally different. And now, yes, the styles and the fads, it's like it's overnight. If something's cool, a year later, it's already dorky now. It's already gone. You already are on to something else. Like if you're a 19-year-old kid, what was cool last year is now not cool anymore. When we were young, something would stay cool a long time because it had to organically catch on and change throughout the country and the world. And now it's like, you didn't see the new shit on TikTok? Like that's dumb now. That's not cool anymore. So yeah, it's rapidly changing.
And it was so weird because it was all compartmentalized. Like and that was part of why things were so hard for me when I moved, because I was used to the culture here and I was used to the way things were. And then we moved halfway across the country. And the next thing I know, kids are wearing completely different clothes. They've got slang words I don't recognize. And it's not like that anymore because everything's kind of becoming homogenized because everybody communicates from everywhere anymore.
Everything's homogenized. There's no local styles. There's no local accents. And shit just changes fucking fast. Yeah, you can't just settle in for a 20-year generation anymore. Yeah, Gen X was long. I mean, that was a long generation.
No, Gen X was actually the shortest generation.
Well, compared to now, though, I'm saying like.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, used to generations were anywhere between like 22 and 25 years, and we were like 16. We're also one of the least populous generations because we were one of the last generations left to our own devices, and we did a lot of stupid shit.
I was just talking to someone who's like, I know a lot of people in this age range actually who are like, I'm 45, and so I'm the very tail end of Gen X. I was born in 79, which is usually the cutoff. It's like 1980, so I just made it.
Barely.
I barely made it.
You
But
didn't hit first.
but I'm Gen X to the core. But there are people who were born from like 80 to 85 that they technically are millennials, but they often call them exennials because they are much more like Gen X in a lot of ways, those early 80s babies, people who are like 39, 40 now.
Yeah.
But they're also, they're not like the newer age millennials. But what I really realized is the distinction, though, why they can't truly be Gen X. Because if you weren't a kid in the 80s, or I should say old enough in the 80s to really soak that in, then you're different. It's like the 80s was such a unique thing, So like being born in 79, I remember the 80s very well. I was 11 when the 80s ended. But if you were just 5 when the 80s ended, like you don't remember any of that. You're basically just a 90s kid.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. The reason why the exennials, the reason why those young millennials can't be grouped with the other millennials is because they didn't have internet as a kid. And that's a huge distinction too. So like if you were born in 1992, by the time you're 10, you were all up on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not the same as someone born in 82. You're going to both call millennials, but that person was already grown up when the internet came. If you were already an adult when the internet came out, you're not the same as people that had it when they were kids.
Well, yeah, and that's why they did come up with like the Zennial tag, because they kind of had one foot in both worlds, because they were around pre-internet, but they still had the advantages of the technology. And one of the weirdest things for me is, having a granddaughter that lives with me all the time and realizing that that child knew everything that she needed to know about how to make a smartphone work by age 2.
Right.
I was playing with mud and putting it in my mouth at age 2. This child at 2.5, I'm sitting there and I'm working on something on my laptop, and she's trying to get my attention, and I'm working. So my phone's sitting there, and what she's trying to tell me is she wants to get on my phone. So she grabs my phone and holds it up to my face, and then goes and gets on YouTube and takes it to her mom to show her that she did it at 2.5. How? How?
Yeah, it's a different, totally different perception of reality.
I'm like, first of all, when did you realize that by holding my phone up to my face, I could unlock it? Because I've never showed you that. Second of all, once she got my phone unlocked, she knew exactly what icon she was looking for. She opened the thing and said, "Mommy, YouTube fix," and took it to the other room. I'm like, she's 2. How? I swear there is some sort of like genetic memory component going on, because it happens with every generation. There are things from generation to generation that we didn't really understand that well, that the next generation just kind of comes out knowing how to use. And I'm like, this seems improbable to be a thing, but it happens over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, one, I think that and we don't even realize it because they can't talk or communicate or anything, but I think babies are just sponges, and it's hitting them. It's hitting them on this subconscious level. So even when you are a 1-year-old, and you're watching someone use you're sitting on your mom's lap and she's using her smartphone or a tablet, whatever, it's like that is registering somewhere deep in there, I think, that we don't even realize. So by the time that they can speak and have the dexterity to use it themselves, I think it's like it's already ingrained. It's just like learning a language. You take a baby to Portugal, you take a 3-4-year-old to Portugal, that kid's going to be fluent in Portuguese within a few months. The parents take years and they don't even fucking learn the language, because you have to sit there and make such a concerted effort to learn it as an adult. But little kids, they pick up a new language in 2 seconds. it just it's so malleable. They're a sponge. But to your point, you're right, because look at the other animals and look at the rest of the animal kingdom. And animals are born knowing how to do certain things. They're born with the knowledge of these different survival techniques and mating, and no one's teaching them. We always look at humans and we go, oh, we teach this person how to care for a child and how to, procreate and build a house or whatever. By the way, most of us can't even build a house, but how does a bird know how to make a nest? And how does it know that it has to sit on the eggs for a certain amount of time and all this? It's born with that knowledge. No one's telling it that stuff. No one's teaching a bird. No one's teaching a penguin how to migrate hundreds of miles in a different direction and then sit on an egg for 7 months. You know what I mean? Like, who's teaching it that? Nobody. It's DNA coded in there, that knowledge. So I'm sure humans have some of that. We must.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we do.
How does
All
it
right.
know?
How
does an animal born in the wild know to breastfeed?
Good question.
It just knows.
Oh. All right, man. I don't know how much longer my voice is going to hold out. We're coming up on 90 minutes. So you got
Once
any final
breasts get mentioned, we are allowed to sign off.
I mean, yeah, that needs to be, well, no, because then you'll just do it on purpose sometimes to be done in like 10 minutes. That's the rule. We said breasts. I'm leaving.
That was a good show. I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
You are more than welcome, sir. Where can folks find you, my friend?
Y'all can find me on, I got the John Cat Show, which I haven't done in a long time, but I still got all the episodes up there. John Cat Show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. You can find me here with Rowdy Rick every other Friday ish, 10 p.m. Eastern. Going mental, and I'm on Twitter usually, sometimes. John Katz 79.
Until
where can people find you? What's that?
Until he randomly takes a break and doesn't tell everybody he's randomly
Until
taking
I
a break.
get annoyed again, and
everybody's like, "Where'd John go?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But yeah, so.
I was dramatic with my fucking. I get in moods. What can I tell you?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't noticed any moods.
Where can people find you, Rick?
Tomorrow night, you can find me pushing buttons for Front Porch Forensics Crew. That is at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday night, I'll be back doing America Off the Rails, 10 p.m. Eastern. Monday, I will be off radio-wise, so hopefully be catching up on some writing. Tuesday through Friday next week, Rick Robinson Show, noon to 3. Also Tuesday night, Manorama, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can find me there on Rancor Steve's YouTube channel, his Rumble channel, or simulcast on KLRN Radio's X feed. You can also find me Wednesday night doing Bonus America Off the Rails, 7 p.m. Eastern. As far as I know, Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show is back at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I produce for that one. Then myself and Stacey Lennox at 9 p.m. Eastern doing the Whatever Show, and then Ordnance Packard and I will be your closing act for the evening on the KLRN Radio side at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday night, back doing Jen and Rick at 10 p.m. Eastern, I believe. We tried to come back last night, but it didn't work out, so I'm hoping we can make that happen this next week. And then I also push the buttons for the Disasters in the Making Crew, which starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern before us on Thursdays. And then Friday, back around to When He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Regan. And other than that, I think that's it.
Oh, my God.
I think I covered it all.
I think you got it.
I think I got it.
Thank
all
you
right, folks. By the way, John, on the way out, just wave to the 868 people that are watching right now.
Is there really? There's not that many watching this shit.
Yes, there are.
Wow.
You should be able to. Well, actually, I don't think you can see it, but I'll show you.
I think I can see it on my Twitter if I look at the Twitter.
Yeah, most of them are on the main account anyway, so you'll see most of them.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody. It's been a minute, so I figured I'd play the piano version of this thing that you like.
Love it.